suppressed.
Yep. How's the car feel with the lower tire pressure?
Feels better on the low speed, but not as good on the high speed.
Okay, so we'll leave them where they are.
Yeah.
Just leave them where they are.
Although, the only thing I'm curious, is there a pressure difference between left and right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
your heads that have held you in captivity for so long. It's time to flip the page and prove them wrong. It's time for rebirth. Yeah, time's up to say goodbye to all the haters, doubters, and non-believers trying to bring you down. In the blink of an eye, you'll realize that there's so much more to the book than the page you were stuck on. Finally, you will be free to live a life you love living instead of the life you think other people want you to live. Remember, you are the highest authority when it comes to knowing what you want and what you love. So stop trading yourself for the approval from others. Ladies and gentlemen, weirdos and geeks, please repeat after me. I don't give a fuck.
Target acquired.
Eagle 1, first strike. You have permission to engage the target.
Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Well, I'm messing up. That's for sure. My bad, guys. Sorry about that. Didn't have the prompts in the right place. How is everyone today? How are we doing? Is everyone okay out there in the chat? Let's see who's up there. 13 is out there. I see you. First in today. Ghost 1978. I see you out there. Nick's out there. Mikey Balls is out there. I see you, man. The Briar Wolf. Heartbender's out there. Good to see you, Heartbender. Let's see. Going to be driving while you're listening, Mikey. Okay, cool. Anson Knowles is there. He's here to keep me in line. Steve Easy's in the house. How about that? Afternoon, everybody. Afternoon. How are you guys? Hopefully you're doing well. Been an interesting couple of days for me. Some of it good, some of it, bad, but, it's all, you take it the way you can get it. It's all good. Let me get this set up here. That's good. What's up, Garris? How are you? Good to see you in the chat. Guys, if you could, on your way in or out, please hit that like button. If you have not already, subscribe. If you have subscribed and you are liking the content, please share it with your friends. And if you could comment on some of the past videos that you've watched or this one after it airs, that'd be great. While I've been running the promotions to sort of shortcut the algorithm with YouTube, that only goes so far, and I'm only going to run it another few days, I think, and then it's done. And then once it's done and over, it's done and over. So then we're back to to growing the old-fashioned way. And what's interesting about the whole thing is by doing what I've done with the promotions, it's really allowed the algorithm to kind of like me a little bit better and put my videos out more. And I've got a bunch of 13 to 15 minute short videos to get out. I think I've got 13 or 14 of them I need to edit up and get those, start releasing those once or twice a day over the next few days. So when you see those, guys, like those, comment on them, and just enjoy them. It'll be great. I've just got to edit them up. I got to put the header on them, got to put the outro on them, all that kind of stuff. So welcome, Wise Jade. I don't know that I've seen you in here before, but you are a member. That's awesome. I appreciate that. By the way, guys, I am going to be doing a membership drive coming up. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out some kind of prize package that will be randomly given out to anyone who's a member for 6 months or a year, whatever, probably 6 months. And we'll just do that every few months. We'll do a prize packet for people who subscribe to the channel for more than, just a month. Because why not? Why wouldn't we do that? You guys deserve to be rewarded for tuning in and turning on and all of that. So it's all good. Yeah. So we're going to talk about a couple of different things today. One of the things that has actually been on my mind lately and has really been it's an interesting thing to me. I hope it's interesting to you guys. And that is, I think it is just as, I think it's actually better and more economical to put your kids through private school than you think it is. And one of the metrics I'm using for that, I don't know how many of you guys have kids. I'm hoping most of you plan on having kids. And I think that if you, when you look at it from a practical point of view, and you have, how do you put this? All right. So when we start off, obviously most people will put their kids through a preschool or a daycare. Now, I'm just going to use my area. I think it's pretty typical, and I think that it's a reasonable thing to draw from. And that is that the average cost around here to put a child in the preschool or daycare runs somewhere between about, I don't know, $1,100-ish to $1,300 a month. And that, shockingly enough, is the average cost of the private schools around here, especially the Christian schools. There's some less expensive ones, and there are some more expensive ones. But for the most part, private school really is not as expensive as you might think. And if you are, or if you know, if you put your kids through, and also most of the private schools around here at least give a heavy discount if you have two children in school at the same time, if you have multiple kids. So it's a really interesting thing to me. And the discussion came up around school vouchers, and a lot of states are looking at, or a lot of communities are looking at reduction of, or actually getting rid of um, a large amount of property tax, because in theory, property taxes are to pay for schools. And if you are, for example, not using that, you have kids, or you're like my kids are in private school, it's kind of annoying to have to know that every year you're paying into a system that you're not really getting anything out of yourself. And there are obviously a lot of retired persons. Now, retired people do get a break on their property taxes here, but not everywhere. So it's an interesting discussion to have, if we could if we were able to do a sort of school voucher system, or just more kids go to private school. Just pay for your kids' school, and you'll have more control over what your kids are learning. You have more control over what the school does, because it's your money, and those teachers listen to you. The staff listens to you. Currently, with our current system, I have found that public school system staff, teachers, administrators, whatever, not the best to work with. And so I'm all for public or a private school, and I'm all for the idea. I'm all for helping people realize that it's probably closer than you think to being a reality. Obviously, that's a lot of people don't really know about, care. They want their kids to go to public school, whatever they did. I don't know. I'm fairly against public school at the moment. I think it's I look at the results of public school right now. I look at the test scores. I look at the drama that goes on in all of these public schools. And, to an old guy, it's pretty crazy, like, why is it this way? I don't know. It's an interesting topic to me. It's probably really boring to everyone else, but it's an interesting topic to me because I don't think most people really think about how their tax money is spent or why it's spent that way. They just like, well, I have to do it and whatever. And then they just forget about it. But I think the property tax, where it's used for, in theory, to fund public education, it should be really closely examined, especially if you're paying a lot of property tax, right? So I don't know, guys. I'd love to hear some thoughts on this, because I find that I'm picking on this one subject because it's easy, and it's easy to see the delineations. But overall, I think our taxes are just really poorly spent. They're really poorly managed, and it never seems to get better. It just never does. I want it to, but it just doesn't happen. And I think that, and the reason that part of the thing here is that I find a lot of people resorting to homeschool. And I think that's a worthwhile and worthy effort. I actually am really, I'm kind of a fan of homeschool, right? I'm becoming more of a believer in it altogether, because at the end of the day, I believe that our schools are really, again, I think that they're really poorly managed. I think they're really not well done. I think that test scores are down, kids are misbehaving everywhere, all kinds of problems. Nobody seems to be looking at where the problems really lie. Nobody seems to care, to be honest with you. To be honest, the shocking thing is I think that I find it shocking that just so few people even understand what's going on in their schools when they have kids in their schools. I don't know. This is a hard thing for me to kind of get around, guys. I mean, and look, I know, look, a lot of you guys don't have kids, but I think most of you want kids. Most of you look forward to having a family, and this is something you're going to deal with at some point. 13, you were just a teen when your county imposed a $35 wheel tax. Yes, sir. That there's a lot of taxes that are imposed in the name of education that I don't understand. Like, I just don't understand it. Steve Easy, let me put this up here on the board, call attention to it. I have 2 children, and one goes to public school and one goes to private school. My son lives in New Hampshire where the schools are great. My daughter in Massachusetts where the schools are terrible. It's a reasonable outlook, sir. Reasonable. At least you care enough to understand whether the school is good or bad, you know, and what they're teaching there. You know, I think I find it really hard to understand how parents are so apathetic. Hello, generally specific. How are you, sir? I see you walked in. I find it interesting that how in general, a lot of parents are just totally apathetic, and they blame and what's more interesting, and I found this to be true a couple of times, where parents blame their kid for performing poorly when the reality is that the school system, the education that he's getting is not an education at all. And I actually went through that myself. Editing some cooking videos, cool, for your members sections. Can't complain. All right, cool. You're okay. In North Carolina, overworked and underpaid. So it's yeah, sure. Okay. Briar Wolf homeschools, my man. God knows it would have been nice to get a break on the property taxes or some extra write-offs on the income taxes to help compensate. Yeah, absolutely. Don't look for that though. So part of my interest in this week is part of my interest in this week is the first of all, I had to pay some property tax. That's never fun. Second, I've been talking to some people about the fact that there's a very real possibility that homeschooling is the next target of the left. They're going to want to ban it. They're going to want to over-regulate it. They're going to do all the things that the left tends to do. And I personally think homeschooling is an exceedingly viable choice. And I think that a lot of the negatives that have been tossed out about it are actually wrong. I don't find those to be factual in my anecdotal experience. Obviously, the sample size I have is not super huge, but it's not. I don't find that I know a fair number of homeschooled kids that they have no social issues. They're ahead of where they should be. They understand things that they need to on a high level, and their standardized testing scores are off the they're above where I think they would be if they had gone to a public school, and so it is there is a lot of different elements to this, right? Like we can discuss to ad nauseum about various instances of, well, this school is good, this school is bad, this school did well, this school sucked. I mean, there's a lot of that out there. But at the end of the day, I think that parents just don't ask. And I think Steve Easy, I think you're right. I think the parents drop the ball when they come to proper parenting. But let me throw this out there, because I kind of went through this, right? And I kind of went through this with my wife. So when my son was young and he went to a public school, I kid you not that I had his public school teacher call me. I was in another state at the time, to get on the phone with him to tell him to quit reading a book, which is something I felt like her as a teacher should be able to do that, right? I didn't think that that was something that was worthy of calling a parent in another state about. Anson, aren't you a teacher? You should be. You look like a teacher. You look like a college professor, not the creepy college professor. You look like the smart college professor that drives an MGB or something, or a Morgan, something cool. Welcome, Sarah. I see you. I see you walked in here. I see you guys coming in. That's awesome. But I don't know. I think that it's I think our schooling has to improve across the board. I don't know how. I don't know how we're gonna. I don't know how we're gonna make it work. I don't. Look, I don't have all the answers. I don't have any of the answers, to be honest with you. At best, I have more questions than answers. And as much as I would love to say that I'm, have a unique and thorough understanding of all the school systems across the country, I don't. And matter of fact, I think that's part of the problem, is I don't think that anyone does. And I think that more than likely there's a concerted effort to keep the schools at a very specific level of intelligence and understanding, and I find that distasteful. Yes, generally specific. That's correct. Anson Knowles drives a Morgan while smoking a pipe. Man of distinct patched. Wears the elbow patches on the tweed jacket, and more than likely he has a great single malt at home that he takes a draft of once a week. Just saying. You think that most people would agree that the current state of our public schools is not where it should be? You would think so, but nobody does it. Nobody does that. People complain all the time, but nothing ever gets done. Why doesn't anything ever get done? Kevin says, we had quite a few problems with my son's school teachers at all levels, but it seemed worse in grades 4 through 8. I agree with that. I repeatedly had to explain the incompetence exists in all fields in life. This is true. This is very true. I like where your head's at, Kevin. As normal, you are a man of few but mighty words. Mikey Balls, do you want to jump up here or not? The sound dropped. Teachers nowadays, yeah, just there for the wages, yeah. The same reason nothing gets, yeah. Honestly, I believe that, I do believe that. I do believe that the reason that no matter how much we pay teachers, no matter how much money we pour into the education system in this country, I don't know, is there any real interest in getting it fixed? I'm just curious. Is there any real interest in actually fixing it? I can't see any interest. I can't see any actual interest in fixing it. Okay. I try not to do that, but it happens sometimes. It happens. Yeah. Yes. I mean, it's an interesting thing. And, I don't know. I don't know how to fix it. I really don't. If I could fix it, I would. I have no idea how to fix it, so I can't. I'm just saying that I think that one of the things is just really interesting to me is how much people will pay for childcare, and then but they won't spend that for private school, which I think is far more important. I would rather save the money on pre-K and daycare. I would rather save that money and pay a relative or maybe a grandma, or have grandma or somebody stay with the kids. I would rather have that dynamic and then put my kid through a private school, then, or just budget in that, whatever it is, a month, $1,300, $1,400 a month, whatever you're spending on daycare right now, just keep spending that for private school, and have a school where you can have more say so. And one of the things I think is that the more people that go to private school, the more pressure there is on the public school to perform. Didn't Trump offer an incentive? He wanted to. We've Raging Tomato. That's a great point. Let me see this. Where did it go? I just saw it. Just made a great point. Yeah. All right. There we go. There it is. All right. So didn't Trump offer an incentive for private schools, like a state tax credit or something? I believe that he wanted to. This has been a talking point in my local government for a while. And we just haven't been able to make it happen yet. But it's a solid talking point. I think it should happen. It just hasn't happened. And we should. I mean, honestly, you should get a tax credit if you choose to do private school. You should also be able to use. You should have an income tax. Whatever you're putting in on income tax, you should be able to not pay that if you have a kid in private school. So. Generally specific, yeah, they do that, but it just doesn't seem to go anywhere, because what they do is they try and make it seem like people are being elitist. So I have a microphone arm. It's on an arm. So I don't have a desk stand, generally specific. But the mic is very sensitive. So I do still get, and I move it a lot. So I do still get some noises, I think. I don't know. So, likes, button smash, good. Yeah, look, it's just an interesting subject. And part of that kind of goes along with the college thing as well. It seems like that at some point, college obviously, the mic is pretty sensitive. Raging Tomato had a good. No, you know what? Sarah's had some good input. As a matter of fact, if Sarah would like to come up, I'm pretty much through with my monologue. I want to go to callers a little earlier than normal, guys, because it just seems to take so long to get through them. So hang on, let me Sarah, would you like to come up? Generally specific, yeah, I think this is true. When you realize that the point of truancy officers wanting your kids in school is to give schools more of your tax dollars, not that they gave a turd about the education system. That would be, that's true. I think that's very true. Let me throw Raging the link. By the way, just so you know, Sarah, Michelle is a mod in here. I don't think she's in right now. I haven't checked, but she is a mod. So I expect you guys to play nice. So I know you can. I know you can play nice. I just want to make sure that you do. There it is. There you go. So generally specific, I unfortunately I know a little something about this, that the state pays per occupied seat or per attendance, right? And they do it's not an everyday, that they're counted, but it's like a percentage of how many days. I think I'll look back into that. But you're right about that. They absolutely do want that. Felt like that was weaponized inconvenience because we later found out that the school would have been penalized because he graduated early and was not an active participant all year. Yeah, absolutely, that's true. Yeah, that's. I do think that schools have a vested interest in keeping kids in school to the not to the point of holding them back. I think that they actually push kids through pretty easily, but they definitely want them there every single day, and they definitely want to see the those attendance numbers have to be up. And incidentally, I think that's one of the reasons why some teachers have do not take attendance, because then they don't have to report that somebody was absent, right? They just don't take attendance. Hello, Ghost 1978. How are you? All right. While Sarah's wandering around in the darkness, trying to find her way in, we'll just continue to move through. I was actually, I don't normally stream on Sunday, but I was on a couple of times yesterday when I had a few free moments, and it was interesting. Sundays are always interesting anyway, but it was an interesting time yesterday with the various people on board coming in and out. And today has been really interesting. I have a lot of things kind of floating around in the air, so my phone may ring. I may have to dip out for a minute or two here and there. Just don't get mad at me. It's just the way it is. Here in a rural part of Eastern North Carolina, and the participation from parents is basically non-existent. Yeah, that's the yeah. It's been interesting watching the various school system. Yeah, Raging Patriot, doesn't get anything out of two chicks fighting online because there's no visual aids there. Doesn't help him. So maybe we can get AI to do that well. Mike Ball, that's a solid point. I do think that to some degree, a lot of parents have failed their kids. Angel Berber, yes, I watched most of that. I couldn't watch all of it, but I watched most of it, and wow, we need to talk about that. We'll get to that in a minute. That was really great. You lived in Lenoir? I lived outside of Lenoir for a while in North Carolina. I lived in Mooresville for a while. Raph was not ready. Raph got wrecked is what happened. He thought he was ready, but he was not ready. He was not prepared to actually deal with any kind of facts at all. He was not ready for anything, really. He was just absolutely crushed. That's terrible. I almost felt bad for him, but yeah, that was the only thing he did. Yeah, at least at the end, he was a good sport. I was about to say that kind of the same thing. At least he didn't rage quit. He did have a couple of moments there when Andrew was, so he would want to go off on these weird tangents. And it was really bad. And it was borderline bad faith. And Andrew would reel him back in, but you could see that he was getting frustrated when Andrew was reeling him back in. It would be great to be able to kind of talk about that. I was kind of hoping Glenn would come on because I think he watched it too. And so That's terrible, Ghost. I'm sorry your friend didn't show up. So, but it sounds like a lot of people watched that that debate yesterday. Technology is apparently kicking Sarah's butt. So, la la. Actually missed the debate. Didn't Sarah host it? No, Sarah did not host that one. That one was actually on the Crucible, and Sarah's here.
Oh, thank God.
The the debate with Raph was on the Crucible, and actually, what's his name? Can everything has Corinth moderated it, which I don't think. I mean, he didn't do a poor job of moderating. I don't know that he did an excellent job of moderating, but it was fine. So, but it was really, really interesting because the. Did you see the debate yesterday with Raph, Sarah?
No, I was busy tending to some other things, but I saw that it popped up.
Yeah, yeah. It poor Raph he was ridiculously unprepared.
Oh no.
He and what he and you know he kind of used and what was gotta back up. What was interesting was Andrew was more or less using straight up Democrat talking points to defeat the argument that Raph was making. The argument was or the prompt was, were red or blue states better for the country?
Mm-hmm.
And the at the end of the day, Andrew actually used Democrat talking points to kind of beat the living daylights out of Raph.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
Well, that's
and
that's a good tactic to be able to like use their arguments kind of against them.
It is. Well, it was. I mean, it was really simple, right? So it's like if you remove, a Democrat talking point is that, if you remove, say, Memphis from Tennessee, our crime rate drops dramatically, right? And so down to like really ridiculously low. So it's the big cities that need all the help. They need, they have all these crime problems. They need more funding. They need all of that. Well, the same argument can be made that if you remove the blue cities from the red states, then they would be so much safer than any blue states. And so
you can hear me making coffee.
Sorry.
GS can hear me making coffee. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, Grit. I didn't know it was that loud.
That's okay. You're all right. I made coffee this morning too. I'm just I have been moving and moving.
Well, that's just like Maryland. Like most Marylanders don't like to claim Baltimore as a part of us. And I believe there was a time a few years ago where Western Maryland actually tried to kind of detract from Maryland as a whole, kind of like West Virginia, and Western Maryland wanted to become its own state because it was tired of getting kind of overworked by the like Baltimore City and blue areas, because the bulk of us are in rural county. There's corn, there's horses, there's cows everywhere, stuff like that. And that's the bulk of what Maryland is. It's very state parks and corn, or other, agricultural uses. And, the only thing that really sets us into the blue portion is Baltimore City. And it kind of like deters from the red side, or anybody that has a conservative concept, it deters us from being able to have the majority of the state doing exactly what we hope it would do and working for the best for us. But instead, it only works to suit Baltimore in a lot of ways, and it just doesn't work out very well.
Sure.
Mhm.
It's pardon me. So at any rate, so Raff decided to make the argument that the top, I think 10 or the majority of the top 10 states that are ruled as has the most violence are red states.
Mhm.
And of course, Tennessee's listed on that because of Memphis and Knoxville.
Mhm.
And so Andrew simply made the point that, well, if you remove the blue cities from those states, the rural areas, which are all red, have almost no crime.
Mhm.
I mean, it's very low.
Yeah.
And so obviously the Democrat portion of it makes it bad. And then he challenged him to name one city where minorities have moved into where things improved,
Mhm.
right? And he couldn't do that. Um,
Well,
and
could
he
you make the
resort,
argument for condensing people into like the per capita and stuff, like
yeah,
having
crime
too
per
many
capita, yeah,
people into one small region? Could that be like, I would take the argument back to that. Like, is it just
sure,
because they're all so doggone close I mean, think about it. If you shared a room with a sibling, you're probably going to argue more than you get along, but you separate them, you get your own room, you probably get along just fine because you have your own space to go to. And I think in terms of the cities, maybe it's not just necessarily the people, but the fact that you're condensing a bunch of different people into one
Well,
small space and expecting them to get along. That's just a piece of it. It's not part of Andrew's argument, obviously,
I
but
think that you could take that. I think if you take that to its conclusion, what you end up coming to terms with is that when people assimilate, which means that if they it doesn't matter where you come from, but you come over, you become an American, you learn English, you work as an American, you become an American. When you do that, and we can see this with the Cuban refugees, right? They came over, and yes, certainly they're proud of their Cuban heritage, but they are Americans first, and they're generically really successful. Their neighborhoods have low crime. Their neighborhoods are clean. They're very nice. All of that. But when you have people come over, I'm just going to pick. I don't know who to pick on, but obviously we could do the Haitians because they're in the news all the time. But look, they've had enough fun poked at them. But it doesn't matter. If it can be Somalian, right? So if you have a bunch of Somali come over and they don't assimilate, and they don't learn the culture, they don't learn the language, they don't take advantage, they don't send their kids to school, they don't do all of these things to become an American, then but they still live like they live in a third world country, right?
Mhm.
Like they still have, they're dragging home junk that that never gets fixed, or they, whatever, right? Like it's, I haven't driven through truly bad neighborhoods in a while, so I can't really comment intelligently. But but places where there's a lot of crime and these kind of things are generically, and I'm using it broadly, and I know that are where people who have moved here tend to just not assimilate, right?
Well, but you also have to kind of beg the question in a sense. Are we expecting them to assimilate, or are we expecting them to get along with, especially in the bigger cities, are they getting along with a bunch of other people from completely different countries? Like America's foundation in terms of who we are is that we are a melting pot, and we have
Right.
a lot of different cultures come in. Now, most of them will try to blend in and adopt our ways, but they still hold on to their cultural norms and their behaviors and how they interact with one another, so on and so forth. So like New York, for instance, is all sorts of like craziness going on.
Sure.
And it's a bunch of different countries, like a bunch of people from different countries all coming into one and expecting to find some kind of common ground. And the common ground is like patriotism and so on and so forth. But that's the hard part, is like, how do you get that piece of it while everybody's literally from all over the place? I don't know. I think it's I don't know. It's crazy.
So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Were you?
Oh, you're okay. It's your show.
Okay, thank you. Even though I occasionally fall into the habit of using the term melting pot, we really weren't a melting pot. And all of the things that you say are certainly true, that people came from all over. My family, I'm literally a melting pot. I've got so many different versions of so many different countries in me that it's crazy. But at the end of the day, and people like to pull this out of their ass all the time and say, what about Little Italy? What about Chinatown? What about the whatever section of New York? And you have neighborhoods that are nothing but Polish people or Irish or whatever. And I'm like, well, okay, that's all true, but they don't identify as Irish. They identify as American. They don't identify as Italian or Sicilian or whatever. They identify as American. Now, do they and when they speak of their former country or their roots, it's the old country, right? This is indifferent. This is very different than how the majority of modern immigrants talk about America, right? And this is what's annoying about Spanish being taught in our schools. If I was an Italian American, which I'm not, but if I were, I would be livid, because when their kids went to school, even though grandma speaks Italian, she doesn't speak a word of English, their kids learn English. They're not teaching Italian in the school, right?
Well,
if I was Polish, I would be twice as pissed off.
I think it's okay to want to express like cultural differences by way of teaching different languages, right? If you go up to Europe right now,
I agree, but not in our school and not mandatory.
I don't know. It's not mandatory in high school. Like, you can take it as a elective, right? Spanish, French, German.
In California, my second grader, when Aiden was in second grade, he had to take Spanish.
Oh, that's weird. That's really weird. I mean, I would have loved if it was an option, because I would have definitely pushed my kids to doing it if it was offered like in elementary, because it's actually easier to learn a language the younger you are. Like, my nieces speak like 5 different languages, but they've also lived in several different countries and have been a part of, that kind of concept where they're able to do that. And they're genius children, like geniuses. But a lot of that is because learning a language early on actually helps your brain tune in a different way. So, I mean, I'm not against it being necessarily mandatory by way of, hey, we have a, Spanish class every, Tuesday, Thursday, and it's elementary.
I'm perfectly fine with having foreign language offered, preferably in high school, but to mandate, well, first of all, I'm anti-mandate anything. Everybody knows that. But to require Spanish to be taught, that's crazy. And so my son speaks Chinese, French, English, and a little tiny bit of Spanish. And he could probably learn German. Wouldn't be a lot of trouble for him. So he's really good at it. I'm not. I speak English. That's it. Could you read the super chat that came in? I'm sorry.
I love Patriot. He's such a darling. $5 from the Raging Patriot. On Monday, October 21st, 2024, Sarah, the Raging Tomato Sauce, had a good question and without the whoa man prattle, LOL.
That's awesome. Thank you very much, Raging Patriot. Every little bit counts and helps. Um, and so, yeah, so I think it's interesting, right? I mean, I feel like that, of course, look, my lineage is, I have I am basically all of UK blended, Scotch, English, Welsh, little Irish, some German, and American Indian, Cherokee specifically.
Really?
Yeah. And
Would have never.
my great grandmother was full blood Cherokee. So,
Wow. Did you have any like advantages to that later on?
Sorry?
Did you have any advantages with that later on?
No, I mean, I wouldn't have even asked. So, but yeah, so I am the melting pot in theory, but I don't know if I was melted together in the UK or melted together, in America. I know that some of my distant relatives came over as indentured servants who were supposed to, obviously, I don't know if you know much about indentured servitude, but supposed to work off your passage over a year or two.
Right.
It turned into basically a life sentence, for at least for my relatives, and they were only freed from that indentured servitude when the laws were passed preventing indentured servitude.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it's almost like it would be an endless hole of debt.
Yeah, company store.
Yeah,
the
you'd
whole
have
thing,
to. Yeah, you'd have to be selling your soul on the side to be able to get ahead of that kind of concept. Totally understood. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would be okay with languages being offered, or even part of the curriculum. I mean, California, I think we have to recognize that is part of their culture out there. They're it's just, I think it's part of the culture. I think a lot of people speak both, and it's just been kind of adopted. So that, whereas doing Spanish here in Maryland, it kind of wouldn't make sense. I could understand maybe Amish, like the German, the old German or whatever. I could even understand that, or we have a lot of Greek, like a ton of Greek people out here. So even being able to speak Greek would be helpful. But I think the state does what it feels is best, and that comes from whatever its citizens are kind of determined. Yeah. Ooh, who's talking about Taylor Swift? First, get your daughter into Taylor Swift. Second, tell her to go to college. Third, import migrants to work since she didn't breed.
I was somebody sent me a video. I don't know who it was. I need a file to save this stuff. Somebody sent me a video of this guy interviewing this like supposedly wealthy, definitely like weak-jawed aristocratic female. And the
weak-jawed.
And she was basically like, she's anti-capitalism, right? So I hate capitalism. And the interviewer is like, of course you do. You've never had to work a day in your life. You were given everything. You went to the best schools. You've traveled in Europe on somebody else's dime. You've done this, you've done that. And he just like literally tears her up in a very nice and polite way, but he tore her up. And at the end, she's just sitting there with a completely blank countenance, just like first of all, she can't believe how truly useless a human being that she really is. Right. Because he tells her, like, you're completely useless. You have no job skills. If literally, if the money turned off tomorrow, you have one thing to offer anyone, and nobody wants that. I mean, it was really brutal. It was absolutely, but it was brutal. It was even more brutal because the interviewer was so polite. Obviously he was using a stern tone, but he was so polite. it made it that much more brutal. I loved every moment of it. It was exactly up my alley. Whoever sent it to me, I got to find out. It was I really appreciate that. It was like what I needed in my morning. Imperious, no, you can't be mean to Sarah on my show. You can't be mean to anyone on my show, and you know that.
Well, he knows
You
if
have
he's
other
mean
shows
to
to be
me,
mean to
though.
people.
If he's
Sorry?
mean to me, then he can't come play over on my panel. And
Yeah,
he
he
learned
wants to
that.
be on.
He learned that
Yeah,
the
he's
hard
looking
way.
forward to your mod panel tonight.
Oh, good luck, Imperious. There's gonna be so many other people in line for that open panel. Like, good luck. We're not doing the hot seat, but we will do open panel dumpster fire after that. So it should be interesting.
Yeah. So that was interesting. So what's new with Sarah? What are you doing? How's everything going?
Oh, I'm doing well. It's been a weird couple weeks. Like that.
I really hope Michelle's not angry that I have you up, but
Oh,
okay.
no, I don't think she would be. That was something that we were always in agreement on.
I consider that private between you two, and I just and I don't want to be involved with it. So
yeah, no, and I wouldn't push for anybody to not interact with her or dislike. Like, I just don't think that would be. She was a very she was like she is, let me say is, she is very well respected in the communities that we play in. And there's no reason to, it was simply a disagreement behind the scenes and it just ended up being made public. But it was like, okay, we just disagree. You go your way, I go mine. It's fine, So there was no feelings, no hard feelings in there. It is what it is.
I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I made her a mod because I think I probably should have done it earlier, but she's pretty effective when she's in here, and
she's very loyal. She's incredibly loyal. Yeah.
She's I don't know about the loyalty part, but she's very effective as a mod. So
yeah, you could guarantee she'll always show up and she'll always be here. Maybe not always. She does have a separate life, right? But
yeah.
But like it's reliability, and it's good to have mods in your chat that are going to be there most often than not, and who are loyal to the cause, loyal to the channel, and stand in the same value lines as you. They're aligned with what because what you say goes in terms of what's allowed in the chat and what's not, and you want to make sure that the people you hand out wrenches to are aligned with that.
Good. So how what else you got going on, Sarah? Anything new, exciting?
I mean, Mod Monday tonight, business as usual. The kids are doing well. It's like fall season is thank God coming to a close, but then winter season kicks off. So I get like maybe 1 week off in between that of not being a professional child chauffeur. And then, yeah, I mean, it's been a weird 2 weeks. I think that full moon definitely played effect on people, but outside of that, I think everything's show's doing good, all that fun stuff. Yeah. How are you?
Never a dull moment for me. I've been accused of buying subs. I've been accused of all kinds of cool stuff, and yeah, whatever. It's all good. Just
you
Thursday.
You and Flo cracked me up. You guys should just get married. Because
I asked him if he was in love with me yesterday. I was like, I mean, he can't be because I'm married, and he can't. And I don't do that sort of thing. But it seems like he really has a thing for me. So I did ask about that yesterday.
I think you two would actually have great conversations outside of like the little drama sphere of it. And I would love to see the two of you actually panel to have a discussion. I think it would be interesting.
He tends to actually agree. He tends to actually say things that I would agree with. The problem is that I don't like him, and generically, I don't know. I don't know. I just don't like him.
Yeah, it's not everybody is everybody's cup of tea, and that's fair assessment. And I wouldn't blame anybody for having that thought process towards anyone. But it's good that you guys are able to at least be on other people's panels together and get along for the most part. And and not turn into like a bickering match. So that's good.
See, the thing is that, and I don't know that people really understand this about me, is first of all, this is all fun to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
At any moment I can just turn the lights out, walk out the door, and never walk back into the studio, and I'd be just as happy.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of cool things that actually are really begging for my time that I just haven't had time. I really need to play with my airplanes a little bit, but at the end of the day, this is all fun for me. So, I don't get that angry. Like, I don't know how to put this. So it's like when people think that they've made me angry. I'm generally not actually angry. I'm just responding to whatever they're putting out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just, like if somebody comes in and starts raging at me, right? Well, I'm just going to rage right back. And recently, actually, on your channel, there was someone that came in and was raging at me. And I if you actually watch the film, you can see me make a decision that I was gonna just go over the top with it, because
With
at the point,
Resto? Is that the one with Resto? Resto
yeah,
Chick?
sure, yeah.
The purple guy.
Because when he came in, I was like, I could calm this down, like there are two ways to go with this. I could calm it down, be the cool guy. That's kind of boring. So let's just, if he's going to come in loud, I'm just going to be even louder.
He was so
And
loud.
I apologize that it
down.
was on your channel. I try not to do that on other people's channels, but it just kind of happened.
Well,
that
was
way.
that was brought to you. That was fair, in terms of like you didn't start that,
Yeah, I didn't start it, and I did. Certainly it wasn't. If I had known that he was headed in, I would have just moved off or something, because I don't like that when people do that here, and I would have. I'm actually really shocked you just didn't kick me off, to be honest.
No, well,
because I would have.
Because I'm not going to rage quit on anybody's behalf, right? And because you two, even when I said, like, guys, we're not going to do this tonight, like, let's pick another night. There's Thursday night, that there's this, there's that. Because it was post debate, and I didn't, if the debate had carried on like an actual like debate, and Andrew and Undead Chronic hadn't gotten along so well, there would have been no open panel. But their conversation lasted 30 minutes, and I'm like, well, I'm not closing down now, right? Like,
Sure.
I promised a show. I at least need to let the people come on and talk about it, like, and there was no disagreements really, so it was like, whatever. But that was definitely not. That's like Resto doing that, and nothing against Resto. I don't think he knows the series for my shows and stuff, but like that would have been a Throwdown Thursday kind of thing. That would have been, or Mod Monday during the dumpster fire, like that would have probably been okay, or even like a Saturday night sip and stream when it's more open, but it is what it is. And like, I was trying to get you guys to like stop and recognize, like, we're not going to do this here. But then you guys kept going. You guys kept going. And I'm like, all right, fine.
Yeah, I was perfectly willing to let it go at any moment. But, I was not the antagonist in that specific one. I just wasn't going to give an inch. Once I made the decision to not give an inch, I kind of had to stick with that plan.
Just the tip.
Just a tip.
It's all good. It is what it like. We have to accept that in our.
Well, I would kick somebody off. Like if somebody came in here and did that, if I had a guest on, like if somebody came in raging at you right now, I'd have to kick them off, and I'd probably kick you off too. No offense. It's just, we can't have that sort of thing, like it's not that type of stream.
Right.
And, but,
I think we have to recognize the when and where, right? There's a right place and a right time for all of that.
Sure.
And I don't think that was necessarily the right time. Again, I don't think Resto is familiar with like the beginning where I, opened the panel and what I had said and whatever. And that's okay. No harm, no foul. But I think I think he just saw an opportunity because you both are,
So
friends.
I'm sorry, I gotta answer.
Mhm.
I gotta answer Smoky Guru here. That is false, Smoky Guru. I did not talk to Easy at all about wrestling. Matter of fact, I don't actually talk to Easy. I don't know why people think I do. I'm okay with Easy. I like to go on Verbal Combat when I could be there. Unfortunately, that show runs until like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I got, the problem is I got to get up the next day. So I have kids. Like if I don't get up, I come out, my kitchen's destroyed.
Mhm.
Living room's on fire. You guys, you don't understand. I got boys. Got a lot of weapons in the house. I can't sleep late. Um, so, and as far as a doxing situation, fuck that noise. That's wrong. That's absolutely wrong. I will back 100. He didn't deny anything I said. There was no doxing there. He is related to those people, and that's not how you can't. I didn't name any specific individual. I just named the people he's associated with, and why, and the things he did. So fuck that guy, and fuck you too if you don't like it. The reality is I didn't dox. First of all, there was no doxing situation there, and second, I never talked to Easy, not even one time about Resto. As a matter of fact, the only time I've talked to Easy about Resto is when Resto was on my channel, and Easy had a problem with it, and I said, hey, I get it. I don't really care whether Resto's here or not. If you don't want to be here when he's here, you don't. That's cool, But I can't kick him off to have you on, right? Like now, if you're on and he wants to come on, I can kick it. Like that. That's the way that works. So I don't understand how anybody gives a shit what I do anyway. But do not ever assume where I get my information. And I don't talk to Grit. I mean, I don't talk to Easy. I would like to. I just never have the time. Like, I think we've had 2 conversations.
Yeah, and I don't know enough about any of it.
I'm sorry. I just had to address that. I apologize, Sarah. That was really bad of me to do that. I can't. Nobody can just say things like willy nilly like that and not get corrected. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Yeah, I don't. Again, I only know what Resto brought to the show in terms of that clip. Your conversation there. Outside of that, I know nothing. Like the backstory or
Yeah, why would
however it
you?
happened. Like, well, yeah, because I don't keep up with people's beef unless I happen to see it. But that particular situation, I didn't know anything about. Now, if there was some form of doxing, then yes, shame on you, Grid. That's bad. Or even discussing that kind of information, publicly or whatever. That's definitely not acceptable because we wouldn't want it done to us, right? But I think that overall, most people, if we just kind of stop worrying about what everybody else is doing and focus on the good content that we want to make, then we will, not only will we be able to supply for our viewers the content that they look for, but also be able to focus on doing that and growing and all of those things. I get so tired of all of the drama stuff. It like eats up my day trying to deal with shit, and I don't have the capacity for it. So I typically try to stay out of it.
I'm sorry. I keep talking over you. I apologize.
Oh, it's your show. You don't have to say sorry for anything.
Well, it's rude. But I just, you'll say something and I'm like, oh, I want to respond to that.
Yeah,
I just don't see I don't see the benefit in lying. Well, first of all, the one thing is if I lie, I have to keep it straight. And I don't want to expend that much effort. I'm too lazy, far too lazy to do that.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is generally the truth hurts more. Why would you lie? Why would you not lie? Or why would you lie? Whatever. I just wouldn't do it. The truth is always a better way forward anyway. And that's the deal, and that's why, obviously, everything I said was true. I didn't lie. I didn't dox him. I didn't do anything that anyone else can't or hasn't done if they just look. The only thing I did was I was joking about somebody who had already broken a covenant. He and I had a discussion, right? And we say, hey, we're gonna drop this, right? We're done. I'm not gonna, you go your side of the internet, I'll go to mine. You don't talk about me, I don't talk about you. 10 minutes later, I get a message. I'm not going to say who from, But they send everybody. They tattle on everybody, so it shouldn't be hard to figure out. I get a message, hey, look at this video, and it's a clip of Resto on Flo's channel, throwing me under the bus, talking shit about me, calling me a liar, all this other kind of bullshit. And I'm like, what? That's how that works, right? Like, we're gonna say we're not gonna talk shit about each other, but the first thing you do is go talk shit. Right? So I'm like, all right, fuck it. Then all bets are off now, right?
Okay,
Like, who
okay.
cares?
I hear that argument, right? I
Sure.
understand it, but here's how I look at it. Just because somebody wanted to throw their hands in the dirt doesn't mean I can't keep my hands clean.
Yeah.
So how I look at that is like, just because Resto broke his portion of it, if I were in your shoes, I would have still kept up mine. And this way, at the end of the day, he would be the only one that was wrong. Or in the wrong, right?
Yeah.
And because it's kind of, it is cliche to say two wrongs don't make a right, but the reason why I believe in that is because I never want to be the person who it like just be, well, they did this to me, so I'm gonna go do it too. Like that's
Yeah, and honestly, it wasn't it wasn't immediate either. It wasn't like it wasn't a tit for tat. It was just he came up in conversation, and I'm like, oh yeah, this guy is whatever, right? And it wasn't even, I didn't honestly even think anything about it. Like, it wasn't like I went out of my way to throw the guy under the bus. But anyway,
I hear it. I hear what you're saying. I still think that I would have kept my hands clean in that predicament.
yeah,
And
sure,
I look at it
I
as
get it.
this way. Like, what did that do for you? So we can't control what other people do, but the one thing, and I exemplify this to my kids so hard, is you can't control other people, but the one and only thing you can control are the words that come out of your mouth.
Yeah,
And if you can't control the words that come out of your mouth, then you may as well let everything be out of your control and let everybody else control you. um so like, that's less a self-discipline, having a filter, like what thoughts are flowing through your brain, and that goes into, am I angry at somebody, am I going to say bad things, do I want to hurt somebody, so on and so forth. And people are going to hurt you, they're going to do bad things all the time. People are going to people, and there are a lot of shitty people out there, but what I can do
yeah. I
and
mean,
I can sit with is I have the control in myself, and I know that no matter what, no matter how shitty people are going to be to me, I'm still always going to do what's right, because I don't want them to bring my principles and values down to a lower level, no matter what.
yeah, no, I get that, and for me, in general, I try really hard to for me personally, I just try not, I just don't care, right? Like, it's like I was a little annoyed with you because I felt ambushed the one night, but I was like, whatever, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, who cares? Whatever. Clover Tack, I am not wearing a bomber jacket. This is actually a sweater that I'm gonna have to take off because it's fucking hot in here. But no bomber. I do have a bomber jacket. And I have it. I'll go get it.
People sometimes don't like to interact with other people, but now if I was running a show and it was a select panel and it wasn't open, and then I randomly sent Resto the link, that would be bad. But I had no idea you guys even had beef.
No,
but
I had no. Yeah, it was no big deal for you.
Yeah,
I mean,
but even at that, number two, like, I have an open door policy unless you like really do some fucked up shit. But that stands, and to me, it's like, if two people are on panel and they don't want to be on a panel with the other person, then they have to leave. Like, not the other person coming on, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to. Uh, um, Again, unless they are selected for that panel, that's a whole different ball game, because they took time out of their day to schedule that in. But like, if it's open panel and we're just carrying on and doing whatever, and somebody shows up and they're like, Sarah, I don't like that person, like, kick them off. It's like, no, that's not how this works. Like, if you have the problem, that's a you problem, not a Sarah problem. And that's how I stick to that, and people try to blame me all the time for, well, you let them on the panel and you did. And it's like, that's not a me problem. it's my panel. Anybody's welcome, unless you're really fucked up. But overall, anybody's welcome. And I stick to that, because if I go against the grain on that one and I protect one person over another, just for, oh, I don't want to be on panel with them, then that doesn't really, that's where there would be like, I would be outside of my principles,
I agree with all of that. Smokey Guru, honestly, Grit and Glenn have had one of the more quick to forgive and forget mentalities and can easily move from subject to subject. And I appreciate the challenge and combativeness. So, again, I go back to, none of this really bothers me. Like, there's only a couple of people I'm just not going to interact with them, because there's zero benefit to me doing so. Only a couple of people, that I feel that way about. At the end of the day, it's all good. As far as forgive and forget, I mean, honestly, you'd have to do something really, really bad for me to be like forever angry at you. Like, I may just not like you, but I don't know about.
Yeah. I think we have to choose our battles, and like,
sure,
where are we going to draw our line in the sand, Yeah.
Agree with that. And first of all, I think that a lot of people, and I've noticed this I've been online a long time, all the way back to the chat rooms and ASC too, and all that. Like long time ago. And, I've noticed that, there's people that just live their entire lives online, and there are people that just kind of move through and just take it for what it really is, which is it's a great way to interact with some people. It's a great way to, in my case, put, put things out there in a very specific way to, or to have a show to be entertaining, or to have a comedy show, whatever, there's a lot of really good ways to do these things. And, and it like when other people have beefs around me, right? Like Glenn and Speakeasy are beefing. I'm both their friends, right? I get Glenn's side. I less understand Speakeasy's side, but again, I don't actually talk to Speakeasy that much. I don't have the benefit of his like talking to me, right? Like I don't have that. I can't see his side as easily, and I more or less just stay out of it. Because it's just, it's just the thing for me to do. And I got a lot going on myself. So I just don't really get too deep into it.
I like it deep.
I'm sure that's a positive in your case. But I just, there's a, I don't know. I think there's just a reality out there that you have to face. And part of that reality is that people are going to say things you don't like once in a while. And people are going to act in ways that you think are really stupid or just aggravating as all hell. And, I don't get involved in that. I try not to.
Yeah. People are going to people.
Yeah. People are going to people. And I won't choose a side. I have Glenn on the show. I've had Speakeasy on the show. I don't have a problem with you being on board. It's just a, it's just a good thing. It's just, for me anyway, like I don't, now this guy coming up, Clover Tack, who's apparently lagging out. We can't hear you. We can't really see. Oh, there you are. There you are.
I don't understand why I'm lagging out. Get some fucking good internet, dude. Like, it ain't my problem. I'm like 100 freaking gigs a second or whatever the hell over here.
Everybody else is working fine, bro.
You were talking, hey, that's bullshit, because you were talking, you ain't even on fiber optic. You're on some shit ass stuff that runs with like a squirrel and a rabbit cage thing.
I don't like fiber optic. I had fiber optic. I don't like it.
Well, then quit blaming me for lagging out. Quit.
All right, whatever.
Quit. But however, I'd rather talk about that than what you're talking about. So let's
Yeah.
move on. So what's up?
Sarah, do you own firearms and firearm accessories?
No, my ex was
Kick
the
her ass off the panel.
my ex my ex was the gun holder, and of course, obviously,
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
I've still been debating what and how, because Maryland is a little more it's a little different, not hard, but a little different, and I don't know. I've been debating that concept, but it is what it is.
Do you shoot at all, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, I was in the military, so like did the shooting range and all of that fun
Oh,
stuff.
cool.
Yeah, and then obviously with my ex, like we shot his weapons and all of those fun things. So it's not that I can't. I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what the little gun looks like. I don't know or like what it's called. I can put the bullets in and shoot it, but I couldn't sit here and talk guns with you and know what I'm talking about at
Well,
all.
you don't have to. Here's the big question: do you give a shit what I own?
Do I give a shit what you own?
Yeah,
I mean,
or
if
what
you're
I'm
proud
able to
of
own,
it, if you're proud of it, I wouldn't know what you were talking about, but if you're proud of it, then I'm proud for you.
or what I'm able to own, right? So
Oh yeah, no,
you were talking about Maryland's trash laws, which I agree. Maryland's got
Mhm,
some fucked up regulations.
mhm.
Um, so that's all I'm asking. Like you can not own guns. That's fine. I don't got a problem with that. Just leave mine alone.
Oh no, I have no problem with the like. I'm a big firm believer in the Second Amendment. Like we should be able to do that without all of these red tape,
Yeah.
catastrophes to try to get there.
Well, you
Um,
had some seemingly red flags there for a minute because you're like, "Oh, I'm in the military," and I hear that shit
you're
a
hitting
lot.
Overtech right in both
Like
of his shields.
I'm okay with I'm okay. I try and be respectful with veterans and stuff like that as much as possible. But the veterans that are anti 2A and then use their fucking military like that, like fuck you guys.
oh
Like
yeah,
if you're
well
gonna
that
go
doesn't
that route,
that right. Like, why would you even be in the military if you don't even support the concept of
the
the
Constitution.
American Constitution?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No shit.
That's totally backwards. I think I agree with you there.
Yeah, it's just like the First Amendment, right? Second Amendment's the same way. Like
Mm,
First Amendment, if you don't care about your right to freedom of speech, then shut the fuck up. And then the Second Amendment, if you don't care about owning guns and using guns, then don't own them. Like nobody's forcing you to do that.
right. I do think we should. I do agree with having things in place for people that are dangerous. With like mental disorders or things like that. But
Mhm.
I think the general population should be capable of filling out an application and getting a weapon. Like it
Mm.
shouldn't be
Yeah.
that.
You think you need an application for that?
Well, whatever the registry, I don't know how you register. Like I'm
Yeah.
just assuming it's an
Yeah.
application. I think Maryland has like 10,000 applications to get one,
Yeah.
and you can't even carry unless you have some damning reason. Right? Like if I was a bank teller who carries
It
thousands of
used to be
dollars
that way here.
or something, like you have to be able to have a really solid reason to carry in,
Hmm.
and I think that's
Yeah,
bullshit.
the Supreme Court Bruin decision squashed that. So, but there may just not be enough opposition in Maryland, and I don't know Maryland. I try not to speak on um, the 2A fights and a lot of the other things
Mm,
going on in other states and even political stuff because I'm not familiar with the landscape. But um, there's really good grounds because New York was the same way, and New York had to shift from may issue to shall issue. Of course, they put up a lot of other roadblocks and they fought and they've scratched and they've done their best to infringe on people as much as they can. But the Supreme Court has spoken in regards to what you're talking about, and Maryland cannot do that.
right. I think it's they allow it, but you have to, in order to get the permit to carry, you have to
Right.
have really. And I think because they legalized the marijuana, if you have a
Yeah,
card
it's good.
for
Yeah.
that, then it negates
Hmm.
your ability to get a gun, I believe. It's like
Yep.
really weird.
Yes.
And
Yep.
I don't understand that either, because it's like, if it's medicinal, and you have it the doctor's note to get, like, I don't understand how your prescription can interfere.
because because federally, when you're talking about a form 4473, which is what you've got to fill out, another fucking infringement that we don't need because they don't do anything, by the way, but that is the law of the land on the federal level, that you fill out a 4473 and you go through the NICS background check to purchase a firearm. And one of the questions on there is, are you addicted to controlled substance, blah blah blah. And unfortunately, marijuana is on the schedule at the federal level, so until that's relieved or done away with at the federal level, because that is a federal form, uh, you're fucked. So
Right.
you
Right.
either lie, right, which is a crime in and of itself,
Hmm.
or you fill it out and get stripped of your Second Amendment rights, which is
Exactly. Yeah.
fucked up.
So it's
So
like
it's
you have
a
to be
no
able
win.
to choose one or the other. And I don't think that's right either. I feel like they also look at it like it's if you're trying to distribute, and you want the weapon to be able to protect yourself by just being a distributor, like they just assume you fall into that ring. And it's like you're making an assumption based on like what like marijuana. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Yep. To me, alcohol is just as bad, but
I agree with that. I mean, who would want to be around somebody that's liquored up and has is carrying at the same time? Like, that's a
yeah.
dangerous, but we allow it in some states, and it is what it is. I mean, that would be the person I'd want to be behind if
Hmm.
something went down, whether they were drunk or not.
Right.
Yeah.
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 I think so. Here in Tennessee, you can carry open or concealed as long as you're legally able to own a firearm.
Right.
You do not need a permit. You do not need to take a class. You do not need
The
any.
Second Amendment's your fucking permit.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, same way here. Now we still have the license to carry program in effect, and I still partake. That is a choice.
Yep, it's a choice
I
here.
don't agree it should be a requirement, but I like the choice, and the reason I like the choice is, number one, I'm on fucking no telling how many lists already. So what the fuck's one more? And then it allows me, that license allows me to bypass federal NICS background check, that access. And I say bypass, I need to be clear on that the license is my background check, essentially.
See, unfortunately, here that's never been the case. It was the case in Georgia that if you had your concealed carry permit, that was good enough to not have to do NICS. But I think they've since changed that as well, so that you have to do NICS no matter what. The reason it'll never be different here is because the firearms dealers are able to charge, I think, $10 per NICS and then a $30 fee on top of that. So your transfer fee, which is not even a transfer, is about $40 per firearm. And so
I don't have
they'll never vote against having that ever.
I don't know. Other states have.
Yeah.
You have to be. Here's the thing. So you have to be. There's a lot of dealers that they make their money off of transfers. Like there's not enough fucking margin in the guns, right?
Yeah.
And so that's how they make their money. And so I don't. And this is coming from, full disclosure, this is coming from somebody that hasn't paid an FFL fee, transfer fee, in I don't even know how long. Why? Because I have friends that own gun shops. Obviously with the YouTube thing and everything else, now it's a give and take trade situation. That I have so much stuff coming in that they just ended up putting me on the FFL and whatnot. So, but I get why they do it. Because to have that license, you have to show that you're in business, right? You have to show that you're making a profit. You can't have an FFL just to have an FFL. Like it doesn't work like that. And so they have to make a little bit of money. Now, are there shops that abuse the system? Yeah. There's definitely shops out there that I hear, especially in some anti, 2A, some less 2A friendly states, it seems like shops really take advantage there. I'm hearing in some cases shops in California charging like $50 for a fucking transfer. But then you got to look at the paperwork. Like in some other states, like here, it would be asinine to charge, anything more than $20 for sure would be stupid, because here it's a very straightforward, fairly easy process that those employees of that gun shop have to go through. Whereas in some of the states, maybe like Sarah's talking about with Maryland or whatever, states that have a register, they have extra state background checks, they have extra paperwork and things that you have to go through. Like that's an employee. And if you think about it, like that gun shop, you're tying up an employee when even if you're just doing a transfer, even if you get it online and have it shipped to that FFL for what, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, maybe an hour, who knows, you're tying up an employee and that FFL is having to pay that employee. So, capitalism. Whoop, whoop.
Gentlemen, it's getting a little manly in the conversation, but I do need to make my exit. I have some things to do.
Okay.
But thanks for having me on, Grid.
Anson Knowles, as a parting shot, he says, Sarah needs to cam up. She's the only person worth looking at on this stream. I'm going to start throwing tomatoes if another old bearded guy appears. You mean you?
Wait, Sarah's got a beard?
No, I mean, apparently Anson wants to come up so that there'll be another old bearded guy, which I don't have a beard, so I don't know.
I'll try to catch one of your. Don't you do Friday nights?
I do Friday and Saturday nights.
Yeah, maybe I'll try to catch a Friday night, and I'll cam up just for Anson.
Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday evenings.
Okay, yeah, I'll see what I can do. No promises, sure. but thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice to talk to you again.
Thanks for coming up. Yeah.
Absolutely. GS, don't mess shit up. Love you guys. I'll see you around.
Yeah.
How dare you?
There's two types of people in this world, right, Grid? Men with beards and women. So, just saying.
I thought you were going to say people that want to be left alone and people won't leave them the hell alone.
Well, this is true, too.
Actually, you have put a lot of effort into that beard, Clover Tack, and I think you should be recognized for that effort.
GS is not doing shabby over there.
Yeah, he's got that going on too. I just prefer not to. I mean, I need to shave now, but I prefer not to have it.
It's a hobby. So I'll tell you my beard. We've gone from guns to beard. It's fucking crazy. Anyway, or 2A anyway. So I've never been able to, like high school, you go through the phase and you got to grow your hair out. And all the people was growing their hair out and doing all, we're talking like the late 80s, hairband.
Yeah.
All that kind of shit. Like my hair on my head will not fucking grow out, dude. Like it just doesn't. It's got like a terminal, hairs have like a terminal length. Like that's all genetically coded, right? Hair is. And like your facial hair, is less likely to have that type of coating, like your facial hair. That's why you see the old Chinese dudes with a beard down to their ankles, right? And so whenever I decided, okay, I'm going to let this grow out, it was exciting because the shit actually grew. So.
I love a lot of the comments. First of all, Tim Kennedy.
Fuck yeah, he is. Fuck that dude. Thank you for his service, I guess, but fuck that dude. Seriously.
I had an interesting conversation with somebody that knows Tim Kennedy, and he said that he felt like Tim spoke in a way that he didn't really mean and whatever. But I'm like, did he double down on it? And I really haven't gotten an answer back on the
he has multiple times. Yeah,
I think he's double. And I think he retreated as far as saying that he doesn't believe that civilians should own firearms without proper training. I think is where he is, as far back as he has retreated on that.
Well, that's a should argument, right? And you get into the debate. I don't know all this fucking debate terminology and things. Like I can't debate. I just come up here and talk shit, right? Yeah. But
you do talk.
Yeah,
shit.
I mean, what safe, responsible firearm owner would think that other firearm owners don't need to be safe and responsible, and part of that is familiarization and training and awareness and all of this other stuff. So like, duh, fucking shit, right?
Yeah, but I'm
But
okay
it should
with
not be forced. Should
right.
not be forced. If
I
you're a
mean,
moron out there with a gun, then and we've talked about this. That's one of
Mhm.
the reasons when we've talked. I think we've talked about it on this channel. I don't know, but I talk about it on a lot of gun channels. I know that where we talk about I'm not a fucking sheepdog. It is not my responsibility if I'm at the back of Walmart and hear pop pop to run to the front of the Walmart and engage.
Right.
Like, and especially if I'm not with my wife, my grandbabies, that sort of shit. Like, I'm out the
Right.
back door, I'm covering asses while I'm getting people out the back door, I'm gone, right? And one of the reasons, everybody's got to make that decision for themselves. But anyway, one of the reasons that I don't do that is I don't know what other morons are carrying up there. And when I run up there with my handgun out,
You don't
ready
know
to
what
engage,
if they even know what trigger discipline is.
what moron's going to shoot me on my way to the front? What I like? No, fuck that. Like,
Right.
it's for me, it's for my family. You've
That's
got the
fair,
right
man.
to. You've got the right to keep and bear just like I do. If you're at the front of the building, hopefully you're exercising that right and you can take care of business.
That's right. That's that. You know, I like that. And so one of my, I honestly don't have a problem with the people who buy, you know, a $700 gun and stick it in a case and never look at it again. I don't have a problem with that. Like they've never even taken. Maybe they go to the range one time and they shoot it poorly, and then whatever. You know, like I don't care. Like, why do I care?
Well, guns are not complicated, right? If you're talking about home defense, buying a gun, shooting it 2 or 3 times, putting it in a nightstand, you know, doing something with it, like you point it and you pull the fucking trigger. Like, let's be honest,
Yeah.
right? At the same time,
Right.
we're saying, yes, you want to be trained and familiar and all this. Guns are not fucking complicated.
Well, I mean, an armed society is a very polite society, and I kind of want to
Sure.
listen. Well, I got some experts on here. Now I understand military armaments pretty well.
Sure.
I'm not super familiar with the civilian market. So I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity. But when it comes to the Second Amendment, a lot of people like to, I think, misunderstand it purposefully. Depending on the definition of what is or where the comma might be. This is a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. Now, regulated is not taxes, fees, licensing. Regulated means you're trained. That's what that word meant. It meant that if you were age, I think it was 15 or 14, all the way up to I think 60 something, you were expected to maintain a musket, ball, powder, and understand how to use it, how to get within 2 minutes to be able to discharge that weapon. That's the regulation. It wasn't regulation like you can only own this, you can only do that. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, it's regular. It's a regular. If you look at Minutemen, right, a synonymous term used to describe them historically was regulars, right? Regular meaning the opposite of irregular, which means uniformed, which means everybody is armed the same way, same, you know, that sort of thing. Everybody has access and is armed the same way, right? That's what it means. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the number one sticking point. I think we get hung up on that. That's definitely the thing the antis want to beat you over the head with, was the regulated. But there's also a comma there, right?
Yeah, the comma was meant to divide. I was going to say that.
Yeah. And they forget that the shall not be fucking infringed on the back is the biggest thing they forget.
Have you heard the argument?
But they forget the comma too.
Clovertack, have you heard the argument that the comma was added as a later translation of the Constitution?
It's bullshit. It's I've seen no
right. I mean, I'm like, well, you know, you can go look at the original document.
Yeah, right.
Right. Like, you know, it's weird how people don't understand. Like no, it's just a transcription error at some point. I'm like, well, I mean, the original document still exists. Go look at it. There's a comma right there. It says, you know, we know what it says because we can read it.
Well, when I first tuned into the show, to kind of bring this full circle, pardon me, Clover.
Sure.
So the interesting thing is, you were talking about education when I first turned in. I'm not sure how much you talked before that, but when I came in, you were talking about education. So the interesting thing, Yeah. So the interesting thing to me is this, that if you look at the way that the wording of these documents from our founding fathers are, the average person would get out of high school or get out of education at about what, 8th grade education, and they would go to the
If
farm,
that.
or they would, right. I mean, but
Yep, that. Yeah.
if you look at some of the letters rescued, or some of the verbiage and the poetry by which they spoke or wrote, and the eloquence in which, and the handwriting and the meticulous attention to detail, that even somebody with only an 8th grade education compared to someone with, probably, I would even put them up against a master's or a doctorate today. I mean, a master's and a doctorate today seems like an 8th grade education back, in the 1700s.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
so,
a great point.
and
And-
so because of that, the reason why the midwits can't understand that it's a preamble, or that the punctuation or the comma or the grammar or the syntax and all these different little aspects of it, they can't understand it, is because they're midwits. Go ahead.
Well, and it's also one of the things too, is back then, and we've slowly lost this. It's devolved over time, but words actually meant things. Definitions didn't fucking change, and people used the correct word for what they were talking about, right? And so that is with any type of old text and old writings. I mean, you see that over and over and over and over again. You're absolutely right, and that speaks to why they use the word, specifically to the Second Amendment, why they use the word arms.
So it's an interesting thing when we talk about this, because you're right. Men that only had maybe an 8th grade equivalent education, probably not even that. I mean, realistically, you learned how to read, you learned how to write. That was kind of the end of it.
Elementary school, it probably is what I'd say, the vast majority of them. Yeah, read, write, arithmetic, done.
Well, I would argue you learned how to learn.
Right. Well, and that's what I was going to say. The big difference
Yeah.
is the amount of
Valid.
time they spent doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you didn't spend 8 hours watching TV. You would work at your job, which whatever that was. And then in the evening, when work was done and you'd had your evening meal, you would sit by the fire and you would read. And if you didn't have anything to read, well, maybe, you didn't have anything else to do, so you would write.
Correspondence was big too, right, Grid? Like
Right.
that
You'd
was
write
the internet
letters.
of the
there
day.
were people who wrote letters for other people, and those people got really, really good at writing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like if you did something every day, right, or every 2 days, you would pick something up, right? And this is I think there's an argument in many areas, and I prescribe to, it's just that people had more time and put more effort into things back in the old days, right? Like there's an argument that the artwork from like Da Vinci's time will never be able to be duplicated again, because you couldn't spend a year on a painting.
Right.
Like
Right.
literally there's no modern person that has that kind of devotion to start with. And if they do, they're locked up because they're like considered to be mega OCD.
Right.
Well, there's a fine line between insanity and genius, I think, would be
Sure.
an argument to be made.
Right.
I
But
agree.
you can't, it's like we are such an immediate society, even in education, that we gloss over so many things. And they did not then, right? Like you understood history because every single day while you're out working in the fields, you and your dad and your uncle and the two guys from next door were out there, and you're working hard all day, and you don't have anything else to talk about. You don't have AirPods to sit there and listen to music on. So what you're doing is you're talking. And when you run out of, hey, what do you think the rain's going to be this year? Then it starts coming. Then you start turning to, well, what do you think about this battle that they had back in 20 years ago? And so was there, and my cousin saw this, and so you have all of this. What am I looking for? Interaction, discussion that in modernity we don't seem to have. People barely want to even have a discussion these days. Like if it takes longer than 3 minutes to get your point, I mean, there are classes that teach this, right? If you can't get your point across in 3 minutes, forget it. You're done.
Yeah, that sounds like the always be selling kind of thing. It's interesting because you sparked the thought in my mind of the old fathers of philosophy.
Well, I didn't mean to.
Yeah, the old fathers of philosophy. You know, I mean, they had. I mean, when you don't have something to be distracted, like the goldfish minds that we have now with, you know, Instagram and all this other stuff, or I don't even do Instagram or whatever, but you know, the little shorts now everywhere you look, it's TikTok brain and shorts brain. And so the interesting thing is, like, to your point, where what you have is the ability to pontificate on things and when you run out of things about the weather, then maybe you start thinking about deeper things like the meaning of life, why things are the way that things are. So, but I had a question about the Tim Kennedy. Is he the guy who did the official documentary called Hard to Kill? Is that the Tim Kennedy you're talking about? And is he kind of like Eye Patch McCain?
He's done a lot of video, and he's done a lot of he's advised on a lot of films. He's the real deal. I mean, he's a legit body stacker. I mean, he's not anyone to play with.
I'm not saying that. Is that the guy? Did he do like Hard to Kill? Okay, that's I've never heard of the guy, but you know who Eye Patch McCain is, right?
Yeah, he's different. I mean, so
you could stand in line next to Tim
damn
Kennedy.
it, I'm from Texas, and I'm trying to place the eye patch. What's the fucker's name? Holy shit!
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but he lost his eye.
He's more a politician.
Yeah.
You're talking about Dan Crenshaw.
Yeah, Crenshaw. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
Crenshaw.
No, so I don't think that Tim Kennedy has any real political aspirations, although I think he is running for like a local office. But I think it's just, to get out whoever's in there, help his community. He is, while he is fucked up on a lot of things, he does seem to be relatively humble. He is a family man. There's a lot to like about him, except that he's an idiot when it comes to firearms.
So query here, if you guys don't mind my annoying questions here. So would Tim Kennedy or Crenshaw is like Mr. Red Flag Laws, which is, to me, he's absolutely a liberal disguised as a rhino, which makes it even worse than just being a rhino. So would you think that Tim Kennedy would be more prone to support red flag laws, because obviously someone that doesn't know how to handle themselves enough to comport themselves to not have a red flag law called on them shouldn't own a gun in the first place, according to his thinking?
I think Crenshaw's recent experiences with having basically being red flagged, I think that may changed his.
Oh, he got red flagged.
Well, I think the difference,
more or less.
The difference is Crenshaw is a straight up politician. So he's going to fucking be Weasley, depending on how the political winds blow and what kind of clout and backings behind this, that, or the other. Like straight up fucking politician. Totally different animal.
Yeah,
with Kennedy, I would say yes, that Kennedy is more prone and likely to get behind the red flag stuff, simply because of his mentality of this multi-tier thing. Oh, I was in the fucking military, so I have a different set of rights than anybody else.
Yeah.
Like, no, the fucking Constitution doesn't say that, and certainly the Bruin decision, most recent Bruin decision, doesn't reaffirm that.
He's been hitting the head a lot too, so.
I mean,
as you see on the screen, he was the MMA world champion. He is a legit Green Beret sniper, super dude. And as you see on the screen, Joe Mobley, who would know, because it's his job to know, he isn't smart enough to understand political or otherwise philosophical principles. But he's got a lot of really redeeming qualities. He's just not. I don't think he's very well educated in in very specific areas, and he just sort of, just kind of goes along with.
He runs his mouth a lot too.
Well, he does do that.
Well, let's.
It's weird because he's humble, but he will tell people, he will 100% give you his opinion, and then my observation is Kennedy, and this is not necessarily a critique. It is an observation. It seems like he will say something, he will be proven wrong, and then he will pivot slightly so he is less wrong. He's, it's just seems to be that way. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Well, let's engage the premise though a little bit, Grit, if we can
Sure.
here, if you'll allow it. I don't know how much time you have, but and maybe it'll get interesting, maybe it'll be boring, and we'll move on. So the premise is that, from what I'm understanding, layman's Cliff Note version of it is that Tim Kennedy believes that without a certain level of training, one should not be allowed to own perhaps certain firearms or armaments, levels of
it
protection.
mostly has to do with like.
Okay.
He's one of those guys he's one of the military guys that believes the AR-15 is basically the same as an M4, or it is the same. It's not.
It's the same platform for the most part, just probably cheaper ingredients, as it were, or mechanics. I'm very familiar with the AR platform because it's so much like the M4 or the M6. I fired everything from the M16 A1 fully auto triangle stock all the way to M4 and 203 grain attachment on it. That said, let's engage the premise. So if in order to have a certain privilege, because now you're taking it out of a right, in order for, so he would, it almost seems like he would be considering this to be a privilege to have certain armaments. Can we not expound that or expand that to having children, having a bank account, having a driver's license, or the ability to travel? I mean,
you're speaking above his level to,
or even being able to vote. Like, if you can't show me that you understand that there is a game, let alone that you have skin in the game, you shouldn't have a right to vote either. So, what are your thoughts on that, gentlemen?
Yeah, you're dead on. I mean, it's exactly.
But the problem is that someone like Kennedy, if it's explained to him, he'll get it because he's very smart.
Well, let's take
like I hear this argument, or I see signs regularly posted with memes and things like that, right? Like, it's a woman, and it's the whole abortion, picket thing.
Oh,
and
no,
it's like your guns have more rights than I do. And I'm like, really? Like, as a woman, you have to go down and register your uterus? Like, I wasn't aware of that. Like, really?
But let's forget about Tim Kennedy. Let's not make it about him. But let's engage, if you find it interesting or worthy of engaging. Let's engage the premise of certain privileges should require extra training, extra understanding, extra responsibility attached to them, like voting, owning a firearm or certain firearms, being able to operate a very heavy machine that could be very dangerous. Like, I mean, right now we're talking about Haitians earlier. They're crashing into people left and right. They're going down and getting driver's licenses without having to go through the steps I have to go through, without having to pay the taxes that I have to pay, without having to have insurance that I have to have. So you start feeling like, as an American citizen, that you're a giant sucker because you're obeying laws and you're paying your taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point in time, bedlam's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that what we end up with is we have people who believe things, and regardless of what. So I can believe anything, but I can't force it on you, or I shouldn't force it on you, right? I mean, that's just the way it is. We're at a state in our country now where, because you believe something, there are people that 100% believe in your right to push that belief onto others, regardless. You believe guns are bad, so guns are bad. You believe that men can suddenly somehow become women. You believe that women can suddenly, be men and do all the things men can. All of these things that people believe, and we've gotten to the point where the idea that you believe something means more than the reality that you live in. Like, because I believe it is, and that's not the case. And it's the same thing with guns. It's the same thing with freedom. And to Clover Tack's earlier point, you really do at this moment have a bunch of people who will argue with you that, well, your guns have more rights, or whatever, but they can't. But if you face them with facts, it's irrelevant to them because they don't believe you. What they believe is all that matters. It doesn't matter what the law is. It doesn't matter what is written. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. All that matters is what they believe.
And I
this
think
is this is where we're really about to get really fucked as a society.
And here's what's crazy about that, right? The vast majority of it is almost like a virtue signaling surface level belief. If they were truly 190% convicted in that belief, at least it would kind of be respected to an extent, right? But that's why they're so disingenuous and so likely to misdirect and not engage in an honest conversation or an honest back and forth, and not, like you say, Grid, not look at actual data and facts and things like that, is because that would prove them wrong, and they want to just blindly believe for the sake of believing. And I think that part of why they do that is we've entered into this thing to where, like, everybody's got to be in a box, and it's not even that we put each other in boxes anymore. We put ourselves in fucking boxes, and it's annoying as shit.
What's worse than that, because people are trying to put you into a box, Clover Tack, because they come out and they say, well, I'm a girl, and you have to, Clover Tack, you have to believe it. And if you don't, you're a bad person. So now you're in a box. They put you into that box, whether you want to be or not.
Yeah.
Your guns are bad.
So
your guns have killed people.
So what's worse? What's worse? What is worse? That, or the person that feels shame because they're a privileged white person and they put themselves in a box? That's my point. I think that's worse.
I don't know, man. I mean, both of those are pretty damn sad. Anson Knowles says, I am describing the thinking level of subjectivity that helps people to lie to themselves and to think that everyone else around has a valid opinion. So, air quotes, my opinion must also be truth. See, that's accurate. I really do think, that people in this country, at least, by and large, have taken the concept of freedom. I'm free to do what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to push that freedom onto you. And now what your opinion is irrelevant because my opinion is just as valid as yours, and you need to recognize my opinion. And they've never been taught that my freedom ends where yours begins.
Yeah.
Right? Like
when liberty runs afoul of liberty, it is no longer liberty.
Correct. And it's a very interesting dynamic that we face right now. I had to have a discussion with someone at my youngest kid's daycare. They've been calling him Allie instead of Alex. And I said, look, don't do that. That's not correct. Nobody else calls him that. You don't do that. And obviously they feel like that they can do as they please. And I'm like, well, you certainly can with your kid. But with my kid, you do not get to do as you please. And we're going to see how this ends up.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, back to the idea of rights and privileges. So with the Second Amendment, there's this, and it's the same as the first. We've got this pesky thing called the Constitution, right?
Yes.
And so you have things that are,
gentlemen, I've got to step away for a minute. You guys try and be nice to each other.
You have things that are black and white. They are written in stone, and you have other things that are subjective, right? In a way, like you try to translate, you try to read into that. So, one of the situations when it comes to the Second Amendment that I like to talk about and discuss, because I don't even know where I come down fully on this, is if you look at the phrase security of a free state. You know, what the Second Amendment says to me is, or I say says to me, the interpretation that I think is the original correct interpretation, I should say, is um, the people need to have the arms because the people make up the fighting force which keeps the state secure, essentially. And so, but with security of a free state, the interesting thing about that phrase, it doesn't say to fight off a foreign army. It doesn't say, and security can mean a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of like hunger could threaten, a famine could. So I mean, hunting in that sense could potentially be a part of the Second Amendment. And a lot of people go, the Second Amendment's not about hunting. I'm like, are you sure about that? Because if a bunch of people were starving, that certainly could affect the security of a free state.
Well,
And
that would actually affect a lot of things. It could
right,
it could affect literally the security of the state when desperate people become desperate.
right,
Furthermore, I mean, and I know this sounds a little silly to make this equivalence, Clovertack, but if you think of the movie The Hunger Games, to me, it's a documentary.
oh yeah,
Those are states, and the capital is the federal government.
Mhm.
And when the states become subservient to the capital government, that's when abuses start happening. So a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, in order for that state to remain free, right? I choose with my feet to live in this state based on the way this state operates. That's why I choose this state over here, right? What, pick whatever state it is. And then when the federal government starts coming in and making demands and changes, then it starts to change why you chose that state in the first place. So the interesting thing is, for the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, because it's so necessary for the federal government. I think it's the Federalist Papers, and I think my understanding of the Federalist Papers might be a little skewed from other more scholarly people have told me that it's about states' rights, right? Isn't the Federalist Papers?
Yeah.
Okay, it's about the
A lot of it,
separation
yeah.
from federal government to the state, but I think my understanding of it is probably insignificant to what it really is about. But to your point, and I understand, it's like Idiocracy. I thought that was just a funny, silly movie. Now I'm starting to think it was a freaking documentary.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm looking around going, and listen, I'm not the sharpest marble in the bag, but I look around at my everyday average citizen right now, and I'm like, you got to be shitting me, dude. We're fucked.
Well, the less educated
A person is.
the less educated and the more economically challenged people are, and this has been historically true. I don't think this is a thing with modernity. The less educated and the the more economically challenged people are, the more they tend to reproduce anyway.
Well, that's interesting. There's K selected and R selected in the animal kingdom. You're familiar with that, right? Like a wolf would be a K selected animal, whereas a rabbit is R selected, meaning rabbits will just keep humping and humping and humping.
Sure. Yeah.
Whereas wolves they're very particular about who gets to be in the pack. They'll eventually even run off the weaker ones because the strength of the pack is superlative to inclusion, right? And so wokeism is R selected, in my opinion. The whole woke state in our country right now is 100% R selected. I joined the Army in 1989, and I got out after the first Gulf War in 92. I didn't go to the Gulf War, but I was served during the Gulf War. I was in Korea for a year. And the unit that I was going to in the 90s in Fort Lewis ended up shipping out 2 weeks before I came off of my mandatory hardship leave. So unfortunately, I didn't dodge it. I wasn't able to go with them. And then I had a 13-year break in military service. I went back in 2005, and then I ended up getting medically retired in 2015. So I served during like an older school time frame where there was wall-to-wall counseling. You had a beef, the DI takes off his blouse, you take off your blouse. That NCO is going to whoop the tar. He's going to beat the brakes off you. But you're going to handle things. You're going to go out to the wood line, go behind the shed, that kind of thing. So it's funny that your channel name on Discord is the shed there, Grid. You go out behind the shed. And but it's like I've noticed in that, just even in that 13-year break in service, that they took boys and turned them into men. Whatever values and composure that I had or didn't have, whatever my parents instilled into me, whatever was missing, the drill sergeants, it's kind of like putting spackle on a wall, right? The drill sergeants filled in the gaps and then created me to be what I needed to be as far as like a fighting man, a GI, a government issue. And then when I got back in the second time, when I became a non-commissioned officer and I had soldiers underneath me, they were like, Sergeant, I'm like, all right, we're going to do a PMCS on the Humvee over here, blah, 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 blah. And the motor pool, like, Sergeant, we've never done a PMCS. I'm like, what? Like, seriously? Like, yeah, they put an airsoft rifle in our hands and basically made us do war games the entire time. They didn't do drill and ceremony. So basically the long-winded part of the reason why I'm saying this is I have an interesting view of a long span of time, and I'm witnessing firsthand the pussification of the troops of the United States of America. And so I ask myself, if it is so, why is it so? Is it a bug or is it a feature that they're trying to weaken this country for whatever's coming in next? Thoughts, gentlemen?
That's an interesting set of observations. By the way, thanks guys for continuing the conversation. I thought my wife was still here. I had to go get a package off the front porch, so I apologize. Didn't realize that she had stepped out.
Can we see your package?
I know they may not.
Is it a big package?
I bet it's a big one.
It's normal sized.
Do you keep it wrapped up? You know, when you send your little ranger on a tunnel mission, you got to make sure he's wearing his PPE because there's stuff down there that Ajax won't scrub off.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. All right.
I think to answer your question, I think both, because I think it was a feature that with explosion of social media and other things and modernity became a bug that was exploited as a feature. If that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. It's like chaos is a ladder, right?
Like they want to do this. How do we do this? Oh, snap. Look at the methods now we have to do this. Now we can do this.
Yeah.
Well, my experience with when it comes to military or the government, it's like it's not a speedboat, brothers. It's a Titanic, and it takes a little bit of thought of when you need to turn, how you need to turn, while you're navigating it. The government does not turn. You know, we're talking some of this stuff has been planned out for a decade. So I don't think a lot of this is happen chance or accident. Some of it might be a convenient, chaotic situation that they can then capitalize on. But if you look at the Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution.
GS and because look, I've not served. I should have. I didn't. But have you seem to have paid a lot of attention. So you're probably the right person to ask this question. I have heard it posited that one of the big problems with the especially the Army right now is the massive number of general officers currently still in service, because they have to kind of create problems and create jobs for those officers to do. And what are you going to, you can't have a general scrubbing toilets. So they have to have a problem for them to solve. And therefore, and since we have currently a massive number, and I'm not sure the exact number, but it's the most ever currently still in service, and they won't retire, obviously, for obvious reasons.
Well, actually, but when they get to that high of a level, they basically, for all intents and purposes, become politicians within the Army in and of itself. So, listen, my observations are limited to. It's kind of like, you ever seen that little meme where you got like different kids? They got equity versus equality, meaning the tall kid can see over the fence. This kid needs a really tall thing to stand on in order for everyone to see over the fence. As lower middle management, as a non-com, like a just a rank SGT sergeant, my understanding and wherewithal of understanding of the machinations of the greater Army is pretty limited. So I don't want to puff myself up as having some kind of like insider knowledge that other people wouldn't. But the interesting thing is the non-commissioned officer is considered the backbone of the United States Army. I would agree that I think most officers it's bloat. It's kind of like the problem with the school system right now. It's turned into an indoctrination machine. The reason why going to college costs exponentially more now is because of all the administration bloat. The teachers and the professors are basically the how the education is happening, but their pay scale is basically stagnated or barely crept up with the cost of living. Meanwhile, for every professor, they got 5 or 6 administrators that are getting massive salaries. And
Yes.
that money's got to come from somewhere. So
Right.
to your point,
and that seems to be a legitimate criticism of today's army.
yep. And to your point, and now if you add on to it contracts, where a lot of times they have contractors, like there's cooks in the army. So why do we have all these civilian contractors making triple what a cook salary would be in the army? Why not just pay that cook double the salary and expect them to do the job? We've got MPs whose job it is to maintain the security and the policing of a military post. Why do we have civilians guarding my gate? Why aren't the MPs doing that job? So why do we have these MOSs, right? These jobs, and then we're paying civilians 3 times the salary. Well, I understand that part of it's politics, and part of it's like this installation, in order to get a certain tax break in the state, has to hire a certain amount of people. I get it. It's one, one hand's, patting the other one on the back or wash. I get there's stuff that I don't get, but I guess I understand. But it's a little frustrating as when you're an E4 and you can qualify for frickin' welfare and you got 2 or 3 kids, you're not getting frickin' paid enough. And then some civilian guys over here doing your job and getting paid triple what you'd be making so that he has a living wage. You see what I'm saying? It kind of starts to rub you kind of a certain way.
Right. So, yeah. I mean, I get it. I'm just curious because,
bloat's a real thing.
Friends of mine. I don't actually have as many friends in the army as I did at one point in time. I used to have a bunch of friends who were actually in the army. Most of the people I know now that are, that I kind of hang out with, they're in the Air Force, and most of them are in Utah. And most of them do something with either helicopters or jet engine, because there's a helicopter facility there and there's a jet engine rebuilding facility there. And so again, they're one of them was about to get out and go into the private sector as a jet engine technician, which I guess makes a lot of money. And to retain him, they paid him a lot of money to retain him rather than just train somebody else. So I think that there's it seems like that it goes both ways, right? Like some people are going to be retained because they're so specialized that there's value to retaining them and paying them at least a decent wage. Not what they can make private sector, but it all kind of works out, right? And at the same time, you have a lot. I know just as many guys when I was in Colorado that were leaving to go to private sector doing computer security and that sort of thing. So,
well, I'm not trying to be jaded. I'm not trying to sound jaded. But I mean, like,
right. I'm just asking questions because I only hear from a few people, right? And it's always interesting to get perspectives from people who have been in, who've gotten out, and who still know, or and kind of still pay attention to it. Because from my point of view, and I'll say this so that it doesn't color what or what you would say wouldn't. You can't say that it colored what I would say. I personally believe that our military is fundamentally broken right now.
Yep.
And basically the jobs that really need to get done aren't really getting done, and because we're contracting those out to other people. And the jobs that we should probably be contracting out, we're having soldiers to do them, which is probably a waste of their time and effort and energy. So I think both of those things are I think it's a very interesting dynamic in the current military environment. But again, this is just outside looking in. I'm only going by what I've heard. It's all anecdotal. I haven't, I don't think you can look at any information about it, because I don't think they have to release it the same way that other, like a corporation would. But I'm sorry.
Well,
So, and saying that, I'll let you respond, because I don't. Again, I didn't want you to think that what you were going to say would color what I had to say.
well, I mean, so the interesting thing is, actually, I think you're being far more kind than I was going to be or wanting to be. I said, not for me to try to be cynical. If you would have asked me, if you would have cut me 10 years ago, I'd have easily bled red, white, and blue. But having a little bit more wisdom, because I've gained some knowledge and seeing, when you're in it, you become so myopic. When you're in, it's like being in Scientology. It's not until you start to see, well, no offense to anyone that might be in that cult, not trying to be offensive, but all these tribes, all these groups are kind of like being in a cult, right? And when you're so close to it, you kind of can't see the 30,000 foot view. And much to your point earlier, when you have nothing to do but to read or to have conversations, you start to really expound upon your mind, as opposed to just being corn-fed something, like a sheep. So brevity is not something I've ever been accused of, gentlemen. I appreciate your, some grace there. So it's a complicated thing, so it takes a minute for me to just expound on it. I would have been patriotic all the way, thought there's no way our government would be screwing us. Anyone in a uniform, I'm like, thank you for your service, 10, 15 years ago. I don't trust people in uniforms anymore now. I'm to the point where I think this system has, maybe with the exception of some of the harder core like combat arms, but I think most of the segments of the military have been co-opted. They've been co-opted, just like most of the arms of our government has been co-opted with all this woke nonsense and ideology, right? I don't trust people that are going to be okay and load me onto a cattle car and send me off to a concentration camp, because they're just going to follow orders. They're not going to think for themselves. And the fact that, I served my country thinking I was serving my country, and then I find out I'm fighting other nations' wars for them. And why are we using our blood and treasure? Why are we the expendable ones? Why aren't we focusing on our country? When the Vatican says we should build bridges, not walls. Okay, you first take down your walls that were necessary due to the incursions of the Moors twice, which is the reason why we had 2 crusades, to get them out of Europe. Okay, and when the Pope says that we should build bridges, not walls. Okay, you first. All right. Well, Israel's got a beautiful wall that's 99.9% effective of keeping people they don't want out from their inner sanctum. I'm not talking about the fencing. I'm talking about the big, beautiful wall that really protects Israel's core. It works. It's an ancient technology. Somehow it mysteriously works. But for some reason, if we in America want to protect our borders, we're xenophobic, we're bigoted, we're racist, we're all these horrible things, because and that's why I took offense to the whole we're a melting pot. If you really look at the whole poem, if you look at the poem about the melting pot thing, that's actually propaganda, disinformation. So anyway, so the point I'm trying to make here is that I'm disillusioned now, and not to be black-pilled or cynical about this situation. I feel like I've been duped. I feel like I got sent, and I lost some people that meant a lot to me. Some good freaking men out there died and are never going to come back. Some families lost fathers that they're never going to see ever again. And for what? When we don't protect our own borders, but we go and fight other nations' wars for them. No, I'm not down with that.
Clovertack, any comments? He's napping.
No,
He's
no.
Old man nap.
No, we got way deep into like some military stuff there.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. There was something there, and I don't know. There was something that I was going to jump in with at some point, and then it just kept going. So I don't know if I remember it all.
I was prattling. I apologize.
Yeah. A little bit of prat
to absolutely nobody.
Yeah, nah, it's all good. I think the melting pot. Even if you subscribe to the melting pot idea, the the recipe for that fucking soup in that pot, if you put too much of this or too much of that in it, is not going to be the same anymore. So like there's to me, even if you use the melting pot analogy, there's a certain outcome you want, right, from that recipe. It's the American experience, the experiment, what the founders envisioned for the country. I mean, there is a very specific outcome, and that you can't just throw stuff in willy-nilly.
Yeah. I'm gonna address Anson Knowles, who never, Anson Knowles is a great human being who never fails to speak it as he sees it. I appreciate that. Weren't I just praising our ability to spend tons of money and waste resources on the Houthis? I can still see the military-industrial complex Kool-Aid stain on your lips. It's actually Barry Powerbomb, but thank you. Not Kool-Aid today. So here's the thing. Don't touch our fucking boats. Right? Like, I agree with, if you're going to, if anyone on the planet shoots at our troops, they need to have the fear of God instilled upon them that they will soon meet their God. If they do so, I'm under 100%. If people shoot at us, we should go after them. I don't think anybody should disagree with that. However, I disagree with us like giving a bunch of money to Ukraine. Why? They're not shooting at me. That's Ukraine's problem. I don't support the Ukraine war at all. I think we're backing a dictator, and we've been duped into being part of something we should never have been a part of. And nobody's going to change my mind on that. I'm sorry. And the same, I don't necessarily think we should send troops to help Israel. I have no problem selling them anything they want to buy. They want to buy F-35, sure. Write the check, baby.
Yeah,
they
hold on though, Grid, though. We give them money and then they buy our weapons. So we're basically giving them aid money to buy our weapons. So we're giving them weapons for free. And I think that is so disingenuous towards the American people.
I really have to understand. I've been trying to figure out if they're really using our aid money because Ukraine definitely is, right? Like Ukraine, we gave them
that's a giant slush fund.
Yeah, we gave them $157 billion in cash and over $100 billion in weapons that we, probably have had laying around since World War II. That's fine. So we give them about $300 billion, call it, just round numbers, right? $300 billion of stuff. I don't know what's with the scam callers today, guys. They just are hitting.
Yeah, it's hard. Out of control, dude. Is it all like political nonsense?
It just says scam. I don't listen. I see scam caller and
mine's been that way. It's one political fucking thing after another. Yep. I'm so sick of
insane. It. Well, listen, our government can keep us safe, but not from scam calls.
Yeah, not from spam call. So I'm not okay with sending that much money to the Ukraine because I know that a lot of that money has just been funneled back to the U.S. in various political slush funds and not buying our weapons. Like, honestly, if they were actually at least attempting to camouflage it by buying weapon systems, I could almost go along with that. But we're giving them the weapons for free. My take is that the money that we've given Israel since their little war started, which is, I want to say something like 100 million or 300 million, something. It's a relatively low number, and it's all aid. If it's actually being used for aid and they're just freeing up that money in their budget to be, that they buy weapons from us, that's kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul, but I'll allow it. It's fine. It's not billions. When you start getting into billions, that's where I really start and if they're actually using the money for aid, I'm okay. they're also, I mean, they're buying weapons from Korea. That look, the Israelis will buy weapons from anybody that makes good shit, right? Like for them, the world is a market. And I guess I have less of a problem with it because they're fighting our enemies, right? Like they're like the same people that we would be fighting, they're fighting.
But who told us that those are our enemies?
Well, recent history. So,
well, I was in during the Gulf War, and
Yeah.
I served during the war on terrorism, and I'm looking at you as a veteran of having served during the Gulf War, not having gone to it, and having served during the war on terrorism. So I got a star on my NDSM, right? So not a lot of dudes have that because of my break in service being so long. Not that I'm bragging. I'm just saying I raised my hand during 2 different war declarations. And I'm telling you, these people are not our enemies. If you think Osama bin Laden was our enemy and not a CIA asset, then you're foolish. If you think that the Saudis are our friends, then you're foolish.
Well, I don't believe the Saudis are. I don't believe it. Look, first of all,
I don't mean you. I just mean,
I'm an isolationist. So I think they're all fucking out to get me. But
that's my point is they can't be out to get me until they step into my territory and try to fuck with me, and then we can find out.
Yeah.
But as far as I'm concerned, I look at it like this, Grit, and I'm not going to get too deep into it because I think it would get a little too. Some people get a little squirrely when I keep hearing how talented Israelis are. And how competent they are, how powerful they are. And there's 1.8% of the population in America are Jewish by blood, right? And they're lawyers. I mean, look at Kanye. They're lawyers. They're in Hollywood. They're all over the place, right? And they're very successful, and they should be. If they're talented and they're smart and they're able to do those things, they should be compensated for their talent. But then why are they receiving so much welfare from my country? If they're so talented, look, I wouldn't want to mess with Israel. And the Bible says those who curse
received the least amount of welfare. I mean, we send more money to the UK every year than we do Israel.
But that's my point is if they can simultaneously brag about being talented and superior.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't get
why
on
do
board
we need to?
I can't get on board with any of the Israeli bashing because
well, I'm not. No. Hold on.
Israel in of itself.
I'm not bashing them. The Bible says
and Christians and whatever else.
The Bible says those who curse Israel will be cursed. I don't seek to be cursed. I'm not cursing Israel. I love Israel. I love Jews. I want Jews to be incredibly powerful and prosperous. What I'm saying though is when my fellow brothers are being sent overseas to fight battles that they pick. And they are more than capable of fighting their own battles. Have you not been watching the news for the last year?
Right. Yeah. No, hey, look, I agree that past administrations have really kind of messed up. But let's remember that those countries
we'll put a pin in it
with us too. I mean, I seem to, 2001 was a special day. Or a special year for me. I was actually in an airport on September 11th, so I've never forgotten that at all. I honestly think that we should have turned the entire region to glass, but that's just me. At any rate, where was I going with the original line of? It was the bombing of the Houthis. Well, yeah, they're shooting at ships, right? Like somebody has to go stop those people from doing so. And
the Somali pirates too, right? Somali pirates are doing all that nonsense too.
Are they coming back? Because I thought that we had already just basically beaten them into submission.
I don't know.
I think that region of Africa is just it has a history of being pirates. I just don't know what you're going to do anything about it.
Isn't that the same place where the Barbary Coast was, the Barbary pirates?
It's not far from it. It's not far.
Okay.
From it.
That was Lebanon mostly, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Lebanon. It was on the other side, but it's not far. I mean, I'm sure it has a long history of piracy no matter what.
Well, because of trade route. Let's be honest. I mean,
right.
that's
Yeah,
why.
I was going to say, look, here's the
Not
thing.
not necessarily because
The
of the
reason the
people there.
Vikings
It's because of the opportunities that were there.
right. The reason the Vikings were the Viking is because the opportunity presented itself to be so. Right.
And there was an insufficiency in their own land
Yeah.
to
Right.
prosper. I would agree with that. So
Right.
and somebody like Mr. says, you know, he's talking about Iran. Is Iran really our enemy? I've shown videos on my channel where they have in these universities and colleges in Iran, they've got American flags and Israeli flags on the thresholds as you open the door, where you would almost have to jump over it in order to avoid disrespecting and walking on a painted image of our flag or Israel's flag. And I watched and I showed it on my channel, multiple Iranian college kids or university kids trying to avoid disrespecting it by stepping around it or over it. But so the problem isn't Americans. The problem isn't Iranians. The problem is the American government. The problem is the Iranian government. So I don't have it. So we war not against flesh, but against powers and principalities and shadowy figures.
I-
Yeah,
Do you remember?
it's important to note that we when we speak about this, we're speaking about governments. Before I forget about it, Julie Mumford, you've gotten 22 spam calls today, all of them about reviewing Medicare A and B. I get those too, but
That time of year.
I've been getting a bunch from this is so and so from the whatever approval branch or whatever, and they want to give me money, and part of it's because we're doing some we're going to refinance one of the properties since the rate's a little bit lower right now, and they know, you know, and all you got to do is just fill out one piece of paperwork, and everybody's got, it's like Cheers, everybody knows your name. So
I think when it comes to Iran, and of course hindsight's 2020, but I was saying this like when it happened. You recall back, it was during Obama's presidency, but they had the uprising and everything there, and it was a groundswell. It was really a grassroots type thing with the people, had enough. And I think that was a missed opportunity. I think there could have been some clandestine operations. I'm not a military guy. I don't know all of that. I'm certainly not spy versus spy and familiar with that.
Show.
Well, I don't want to get off into it except to say that I think that, and maybe even if just words were spoken, like it could have made a difference there. I don't know, but it strikes me as that was such a missed opportunity, where it seemed like the actual people that BS is talking about had enough.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of missed opportunities in that region. And I'm going to be honest with you. The reason it's a long discussion to have, and we won't have it today, is that you have to really look at what the CIA has been doing for the past 30 or 40 years. And while they, in general, I think meant to do good, they're really bad at their job. Like, for some reason, everybody thinks the CIA is like super awesome, but I think that history is, when at some point the curtain's going to be pulled back, and I think that history is not going to be kind to the CIA, the NSA, and a couple of other three-letter organizations.
I think we're there right now, though, Grid. I think we're there
pretty
right
close,
now.
for sure. We're pretty close.
Soup Group has definitely got no respect for most of the people that are paying attention. Most people are like TikTok brain, goldfish brain. But if you're paying attention, you're realizing like you can't go to a student council meeting or local student council meeting and then talk about why is this smut in my kid's library. And then if God forbid you read a passage out of the book that they're putting in front of 8, 9, 10-year-old kids in the library, they say, well, this is inappropriate. You shouldn't be reading this basically pornography that you're reading in this is not the right place. But yet you got it in my kid's library. But then they'll send the FBI after them to harass these parents and try to create dossiers and get them on lists and stuff like that. So everything's backwards and upside down. Everything's just sweet. Yeah. Sweet is bitter. Bitter is sweet. Good is evil. Evil is good. It's just insane.
Yeah,
we got to fight. We got to fight, though. I mean, we can't just sit in the fetal position and suck our freaking thumbs though and rock back and forth. You know,
Sure.
just because you're hiding underneath the blanket in your bedroom with the bear in there doesn't mean the bear disappears because you can't see it. It's still there. It might eat you. It might not.
I just think that see, here's the thing. I think that we've gone too far. Pardon me. I think the three-letter agencies have gone too far with the Ukraine. They've gone too far with in the Middle East, and it, while people joke about it being, everything being a CIA plot, the reality is that a lot of times it kind of is. We joke. We're at the point now where we're joking about people being feds all the time, right? Are you a fed? You're a fed because you look like a fed, and I really feel, and obviously the last 20 years between Waco and all of the other things that have happened with the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, and so on and so forth, something has to give, right? And I think that their handling of the Middle East in particular has been so poor that it's got to come out. It's got to get cleaned up. We can move forward. I mean, look, I agree that we need clandestine services, right? We need agencies that do things behind the scenes, but they need to be good at their job.
Well,
and they need to
but
have
hold
some
on.
more. They need to have some oversight such that they're not taught, that they're literal, like, so that they don't feel like that their literal reason for existing is the toppling of governments. I mean, I think that we went too far. I think that, I don't know. I think that we were so obsessed with stopping the spread of communism that we ended up doing a bunch of really stupid things in the name of freedom, to the point where we really pissed a bunch of people off.
Well, to your point, though, Grid, what you're bringing up, I find to be very fascinating, because I've posited this on several occasions. When I was in the military, you think everyone in the military, all those alphabet soup group, the three-letter agencies they're heroes. They're fighting for our rights, and they're protecting us, and they're badasses, and they're professional, to your point, right? And now, but you're basically asserting that they're either incompetent on purpose or just incompetent by design, which is on purpose, I guess, when they used to be competent. Now, when you used to watch CIA operations happening in third world countries where they're trying to disable certain power structures in order to install a new power structure, we thought, hey, that's great, because, democracy, right? Republic, everything's great. America, F yeah, right? World police. But when you pay attention to enough of these operations in all these other different countries, and you still think you're the good guy, and then you actually start to see the same tactics being demonstrated within your own continental border, that's when so if the purpose is to disrupt the current power structure in order to install a new one, the question that is asked now in my mind is, well, what's the new power structure going to be? I think it's going to be communism. I think China has already pretty much, in not China per se, but the Chi-Coms have taken possession of this country. But I think that they're actually stooges for a bigger organization. The BRICS, you've heard of BRICS, right? It's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and North Korea, right?
Yeah, the oil conglomerate.
So the petrodollar is about to go out. Matter of fact, countries in Africa are basically telling you, if you got dollars transformed to something other than a dollar, it's about to all crash. So everyone's seeing everyone's reading the tea leaves. Everyone understands that the hand of protection is being taken off of America, right? And this part, I think, is going to be very interesting to Clover. I think it will be, and I'd like to hear what he has to say about it, or maybe it's for another show. But they've recently leaked like FBI documentation of what a DVE is, a domestic violent extremist. It's basically someone with a Betsy Ross flag, with any kind of iconography, like Punisher, or if you have don't tread on me. Yeah. so I've posited this in about 20 years from now. I think shit's going to hit the fan within the next 3.5, 4 years. I think 2/3 of the population of the United States of America is going to be culled through conflict, civil wars, pestilences, illnesses. I think about 2/3 of the population of America is going to go within the next 3.5, 4 years. So the interesting thing for me is, if these things are happening, I ask, why are these things happening? If these things are being, and in 20 years, the history books are going to be written that anyone that had a Betsy Ross flag, anyone that had American iconography on their forehead, this was on my freaking shoulder IR patch in Afghanistan. This thing lights up like if a helicopter's going over. They'll see it reflects, right? So I'm going to be the new. It rhymes with Yahtzee.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard all of this. But
you have? Okay.
Yeah, I have a different. I think that's a false flag. I think that's feeding. I think that's feeding into a narrative.
I hope I'm wrong.
I think it's feeding into a narrative because the facts don't uphold the mythology. But I tell you what is happening right now is I think.
Hold up. Can you explain that the facts don't uphold the mythology if it hasn't happened?
Well, China doesn't really own as much of America as they think they do, or as we think they do. BlackRock's not controlled by the Chinese. I mean, there's a lot of bullshit. That once you dig into it, it's blatantly obvious that people are just making shit up as they go along. What is true is that China is seeing less and less benefit to being engaged in the Western world. It corrupts their children. It creates problems in their country. And China has proven time and again that it's willing to literally close itself off to the entire world. No one in, no one out. And I think they're on the verge of that again. They've already banned YouTube. Now you think about that. Like Google does not work in China. You think about how, like that's a big thing to say. And I think it's the exact opposite. I think China's going to go full isolationist. The only reason that they're as engaged with the world as it is now is because they needed the oil. But if Putin plays ball and gives them oil out of Siberia and Middle Russia, or not Russia, but whatever the fuck, it's not Moldavia, whatever fucking little piece of shit country it is. If he gives them oil, China doesn't need anything else in the world. And the only reason it needs it from Russia is because they don't want to drill and they don't want to use their own resources up drilling it out of the Mongolian desert. Why do I mean, it's not really that hard to look and just see the reality. Like China doesn't need our oil. We have nothing China needs. They don't even export that much to us anymore. Like in the past 12 years, exports from China have tapered off a lot. Like you can just notice it. Just walk through Walmart, right? Like Walmart is used to be all China, and now it's mostly China, right?
So I just want to clarify one thing. Your points are really well made, and there's a lot of logic to what you're saying. I don't think that China is in control.
Moldova, thank you, Joe.
I think that China is being puppeted by by the machinations of things or entities that are in control. Meaning, they're just going to be the scapegoat. I mean, they're the front facing.
Could be. I mean,
yeah. And I think you're right, though. I think
I don't know. I mean, I just. Yeah,
I got to step away and let my dogs out.
That's okay. We're gonna wrap here in just a couple minutes. So go step away, then come back, and we'll wrap up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I just I think the biggest problem is the biggest problem we face right now is what's going on in South America. So. Clovertac, did you go to sleep again?
In South America? What are you talking about?
Our biggest problems that we're going to face are from South America.
Coming from South America?
Yeah. They already are, but they're going to get worse.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
don't wrap up, please. It's almost 3 o'clock, Julie. I'm
just
sorry. I have to I
when
have to
I
go do stuff.
when I look
Hours.
at kind of the direction of the country, right? One of the things that I like to pay attention to, and this was my theory, my perspective on this was reinforced when I did a whole lot of homework within the state of Texas quite a few years ago. I spent like 2 weeks digging through just all kinds of data, put together a video and everything, um, just so that I had it on record anyway, because I was tired of primarily people that didn't live in Texas talking about how
Mhm.
Texas was going to be the next California because all the people moving here. And I'm like, no, you don't understand the makeup of Texas, and you don't understand where those people are moving to, and there's a lot more parts and pieces than just that. You're looking at big cities and thinking that's the whole, and Texas is a unique animal that's unlike any other state. And in doing that, um, I realized something, or I reaffirmed something that I already kind of knew, which is if you look at the United States as a whole, not the federal government, not the direction the federal government's going, because that changes with political winds and a lot of things. But then
Mhm.
you look at the states, the individual states, right?
Mhm.
And then you start to apply that same logic I was using with parsing out all that data from Texas. We actually are not moving backwards. Um,
Yeah.
but then when you add all that other stuff into the equation, the federal level and whatnot, obviously it's not you're not moving the needle a lot, right? It's not a very fast pace. Um, and what's interesting with what uh, GS brought up when he was talking about 2/3, and I don't know that it would be that quick, but what he was talking about with the 2/3 thing,
Mhm.
um, that's fairly 2/3 thing is really close to the state balance of power that I'm talking about,
Mhm.
right? Like it's not
Yeah.
there. I think we're more than 2/3. But assuming that we lost a little ground, we would be right there with what generally specifics talking about. So it was really interesting what he brought up from like my research and some of the things I've looked at in the past.
Yeah. So um I don't really want to get into too much of this because I'm trying to wrap up. And this is like a long conversation.
Oh yeah,
Um, I
you're
do.
actually you're actually over, I think, aren't you?
Not yet. No, I,
Oh,
I I like to get out of here at 3 o'clock as close as I can.
oh,
And so normally I'd be, we'll be doing, we'll wait for GS to come back and we'll do our closing comments and stuff. Joe Mobley, if Taiwan falls, we're cooked from a chips perspective. Yeah. Not really. I don't think we have given under well, Trump basically forbade the production of specific microchips outside the U.S. And the Biden administration actually in 21 they approved that plan, and now that the chips that were previously made in California are being made in Taiwan and mainland China. But we could just as easily move. Um, uh, we could just as easily move that chip production back to Silicon Valley. Um,
it would suck for
so
a little while, but
yeah, it would. We'd have three or
there's
four
this
months.
thing when you start talking about money and capitalism that
Yeah,
vacuums in the market tend to get filled.
yeah, and that's the that. Again, I don't want to start down a long road as I'm trying to wrap up, but there's the it's very interesting all of the arbingers of doom that people bring up. Um, I really the Tennessee beating Bama is one of the signs of the apocalypse. Anson Knowles. First of all, I don't know what you. I mean, Tennessee's always beaten Bama, Alabama anyway. I don't know if we're talking about a sports team or something. I'm not really up on that, but um, so ready for the blue wave between November and January. The power will delete shows like mine. Yeah, probably. Remember what happened with deplatforming after the last election? Yes, that's true. All that's true. However, hopefully we're actually winning. Now, Anson, don't forget to go vote. You sorry bastard.
He's going to be too
All right.
busy like doing degenerate stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah,
to
he's
go
got
vote.
degenerate stuff to do. That's true. I'll let GS go first on the wrap up, and let's just get our final comments in and all of that, and we'll wrap this show up.
Oh, I just want to
On
say thanks
time.
for the thanks for the opportunity to come up and have a conversation. I found it to be very edifying, and hopefully meaningful. And I look forward to having more. Maybe perhaps have you on my show sometime, and would love to. And Clover, I'd love to dig a little bit deeper into what you were talking about. I was listening while I was letting my dogs out about the 2/3 thing.
Yeah.
And some of your research, and I'd like to offer my platform for the conversation at some point in time. If you want to reach out to me at Porch Dick Nation, porch as in the thing you sit on, dick as in I'm kind of a dick, like get off my lawn, kid, and nation as in the nation we live in, porchdicknation@gmail.com. Reach out to me there and we'll set up a time, and I'd love to have you on and further have a conversation about it. Again, thanks for the opportunity. If you want to check me out at Generally Specific, it should be pretty easily to find me on the interwebs.
I think they've spammed your link in the chat.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it's weird being on this other platform because I really don't see the comments very well, so I have to keep looking over to YouTube. But thanks again for the opportunity, and it was great to talk to you. And sorry that I was prattling quite a bit there.
You're okay. It's been a great show. Kind of went right, sort of where I thought it might go today, which is good. It's good times. Clover, your final words there, sir.
Well, look, it got away from the fucking drama. That's all I'm happy about. So hopefully people enjoyed it. I know I did. I always enjoy jumping up, but it was great to spend a little time with Generally Specific. That's probably the longest we've been on a panel together. But yeah, I don't have anything like fucking subscribe to me. I don't give a shit. And especially if you're anti-2A, go fuck yourself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's if you're anti-2A, you're pretty much anti-American at that point. You don't belong here. So that's just my opinion. It is, of course, Glocktober. So go buy yourself a Glock or two. They're small and they need company. Guys, it's been a good show. I started out talking about the cost of private school versus just even the cost of daycare. And I think that it's interesting that people are fine with spending a lot of money on daycare, but they don't want to spend any money on actual schooling where the money actually counts. And I think that you can really have I think if you are considering having children, or if you have children, I think you need to really take a look at what's important in your life. And I think one of the things that's most important is your children getting an education that you can live with and they can grow with. And those are two things that are really important. It was great to have Sarah on today. She's always a good guest. I was really surprised I didn't see Michelle in the chat today, but she's probably busy. She's got things to do. No problem there. For the guys that tried to bring the drama into the chat, I have no problem responding to what I have said or done. If I was wrong, I'll admit that I was wrong. But you're gonna have to actually find where I was wrong, and that could be hard. That might take some time. But you're welcome to. You're welcome to do that. And for those who don't know, the next show will be Wednesday evening at 8:05 Central Time, and it'll be a great show. It's going to be a good time. That show will be more along the lines of our normal format rather than the financial stuff and that kind of thing. We're going to talk about some other cool stuff on Wednesday night as well. Hopefully I have a great guest coming on. If not, we'll have an even better guest coming on. We'll see. And then, of course, Friday or Thursday afternoon will be the next afternoon show. Please come on, support the show. If you haven't already, make sure you like, subscribe, and please share the channel. Obviously, I've done a lot of growing. I did the promotions. I've done everything I can do on my side. I need you guys to help out as well, and be looking forward to the next round of promotion, which will be more along the lines of what you're probably used to, which is the I'm gonna do a giveaway for people who have been a member for I think probably 6 months. If you've been a member for 6 months, which will
he's giving away a sports car, by the way. I heard it.
Well, I won't give away a sports car, but
it.
I'll give away something. I'll give away some merch, or I'll give away. I'll find something cool, and we'll give it away. And maybe
Gotta
we'll
have
do that
merch to
tomorrow.
give away. Merch, Grid.
Yeah, I'm getting there. I'm almost there. I got designs. I've got people that can make it happen. We're going to make it happen. And then I think we'll do that every month. So, if you've been a month for 6 months, every month I'll go down. If you've been a month, take the guys that have been a member for 6 months, and we'll do hit the random draw button, and then on a randomizer, and whoever pops up, they get the stuff. And yeah, it'll be cool. I still got to get with you, Clovertack, on the patches and some designs for those. So
Okay.
that'll be great. Until next time, guys, be cool, wear glasses if you need them, and get off my lawn. Oh, by the way, enjoy this outro of Andrew laughing so loud.
Yeah, I just answered your question. Can you tell me what epistemology means?
Epistemology is the study of the epistles. I mean, you can. I told you that a husband and wife is supposed to be the representation of God and the church. He said he's a husband. I asked him if he sees himself as the embodiment of God, and he said no. That doesn't make any sense.
Wait, what is the epistles?
The epistles are the apostles. Are you talking about the apostles?
No, but